and we'll print your name and sign.
Oh,
Okay.
that's some, I didn't.
Better,
All right.
That came
better
out
chair than I am.
With approvals.
on ordinance.
Through purchase orders quicker than I do.
My cheat sheet here. The meeting to order. May we have a reading of the meeting notice, please?
The notice of this meeting was provided to the public and the press on January 14th, January 18th, 2022, and was posted at the municipal building in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-7.
Thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Vice President Bucieri,
Here,
Fury,
Here.
Councilmember Lynch,
Here.
Councilmember Shortway,
Here.
Council President Rizzuto.
Here. Would you please stand and join with me in a pledge to the flag? Remain standing, please, after. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to take this opportunity to ask for a moment of silence and a moment of remembrance for the brave, courageous people of Ukraine who are battling for their freedom and battling for their lives. I hope they are successful, and perhaps our prayers and thoughts may bring comfort to them. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Council President. Mr. President, if I may,
Certainly.
on the back of what you just said, I was going to do this later on in the meeting. I'd like to introduce a resolution
I guess.
on behalf of the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are a courageous people. The Ukrainians will not give up their sovereignty and territorial integrity without a battle. We condemn the Russian Federation's unprovoked invasion of Ukraine in the strongest possible terms. Russian Federation's act of war has caused death, destruction, and displacement. Russia's actions are a violation of international law and unacceptable to the civilized world. Ukrainians will fight for their country, just as you and I would fight for our beloved United States. We, the Council of Vernon Township and the Mayor of Vernon Township, support the Ukrainian people. I make that motion as a resolution. Do I?
I'd be proud to second it.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions or comments?
Well done.
By acclamation, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
hi,
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Shortwave, for bringing it forward.
Thank you.
Moving to our first order of business.
mayor comments.
Well,
If I could heard that resolution, I would have. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
very well.
We all need to stand together
Yes, we do.
in the right. Mr. Council President and other council members, those who have viewed this year's town council meetings are very much aware of the intense and seemingly single-minded focus on attempts to kill the town center biking and walking trail and the town center bicycle projects. Both of these are two special amenities that will serve as creative infrastructure investments as part of our ongoing efforts and actions to attract the kind of commercial ventures that will produce additional tax dollars to reduce the tax burden on homeowners, and that will provide some of the additional services and conveniences that our residents want and that our residents need. Many have used the term extreme to describe the exaggerated project killing actions and attempts by a few loud and prolific negative Facebook warriors, and also by those good people within our governing body, which seems to have been either intimidated or deceived into serving as these Facebook warriors, surrogates, or agents. As I have attempted to make clear in my comments on the town center biking and walking trail and on the town center bicycle pump track, these are two special amenities that will be implemented. My confidence that these amenities will be implemented in spite of the aggressive and combative efforts of a few who are trying to put a dagger in the heart of our efforts is due to the simple fact that all of the planning, all of the organizing, all of the direction and coordinating and controlling actions by me and the previous two councils have been in accordance with all appropriate requirements. Speaking of appropriate, I believe that it's appropriate at this time that I provide you and the public a summary update on the status of our efforts to move these two special amenities forward. First, the town center bicycle pump track. The following 8 points will serve as a summary update of the status of our current efforts related to the town center bicycle pump track. Point 1, the town center bicycle pump track project is not like the normal projects for which the municipality seeks bid proposals. Normally, our municipal engineer prepares the project plans and specifications, and then the municipality seeks bids from contractors to implement those specifications. Due to the unique and special skills and experiences that are required to build a high-quality, long-lasting pump track, the request for proposal documents that our municipal engineer and our qualified purchasing agent prepared for the town center bicycle pump track project advertise this project as a design and build project. Point 2, on August the 3rd, 2021, a total of 3 proposals were received to build the town center bicycle pump track. Point 3, after review of the proposals by a subcommittee consisted of township professionals, township staff, and 2 council members, it was determined that an award would be awarded to Spawn Ranch. And at the August the 9th, 2021 council meeting, the council officially awarded Spawn Ranch the contract to design and to build the town center bicycle pump track. Point 4, the design work for the bicycle pump track began in September of 2021, and construction work began in mid-October 2021. The work to date has included the leveling of the pad site, the movement of millings on the project site, and the grading and shaping of the millings to form the base for what will be the asphalt paved bicycle pump track. Due to weather conditions in late October and early November, the work completed was limited to the forming of the base of the track and did not proceed to the final placement of asphalt paving. Point 5, in order to obtain the best quality surface for the bicycle pump track, it was decided to stop work in late October and wait until the winter months passed before continuing the work. This winter shutdown period is actually working in our favor in that it is allowing the base for the track to settle. The bicycle pump track will be properly finished when better weather returns in the spring. Point 6, during this month, representatives from Spawn Ranch visited Vernon Township and met with our municipal engineer to review the status of the bicycle pump track construction project. During this meeting, an inspection of the site was conducted, and Spawn Ranch reconfirmed that they will continue their work in the spring once warmer weather returns and the site dries out properly. Point 7, the focus of the next phase of work will be the final grading of the track, the installation of drainage, the asphalt pavement, and the final landscaping. And point 8, I'm also pleased to announce that the growing excitement about this town center investment has resulted in our town receiving its first 2 contributions that will enhance the user experience of our state-of-the-art bicycle pump track. Both contributions are from the Sussex Bike Sports Shop, which is located on Route 23 in Suffolk. The Sussex Bike and Sports Shop is owned by Jason Ziegler, who was born and raised in Vernon Township and who was a graduate of Vernon Township High School. Mr. Ziegler has commissioned a local Sussex County company to construct and build 10 galvanized steel bike storage racks that will be mounted at our town center bicycle pump track. Each rack will be able to store and hold 18 bicycles. Mr. Ziegler's second contribution will be a state-of-the-art weathable outdoor public tire bike pump with a gauge. I want to say thank you, Mr. Ziegler. A large number of residents in Vernon, and in fact, in the tri-state area, share your excitement and anticipation about this new town center investment. Next is town center walking and biking trail. The following 9 points will serve as a summary update on the status of our current efforts related to the town center walking and biking trail. Point 1, in previous comments by me, as well as some members of the council, we have repeatedly made it clear that we view the town center walking and biking trail as a town center infrastructure project and have provided evidence and comments to support our logic that a town center walking and biking trail will be a key economic driver for business development that we want and that we need in our town center. Point 2, after receiving the results of 5 bids from contractors who desire to construct the trail, the 2 appropriate municipal service providers, those being the township engineer and our qualified purchasing agent, recommended to me that the municipality should award the construction contract to the firm that met the criteria as the lowest responsible bidder under the New Jersey Local Public Contracts Law. Point 3, on December the 13th, 2021, via resolution number 21-286, the council approved my recommendation that a contract to construct the trail be awarded to Solomon Brothers, who are located in Netcom, New Jersey. Point 4, up until recently, the municipality had one unresolved issue that presented a minor challenge to the full construction of the town center walking and biking trail along the planned path. That challenge was due to the fact that up until recently, the municipality had not yet completed this purchase of a piece of property through which a portion of the trail was to be constructed. The purchase of this piece of property was pending a receipt of formal notification from the New Jersey DEP that a small amount of lead contaminated soil on this property had been cleaned up to the New Jersey DEP's approval. On February the 14th, the mayor's office received a copy of this required formal New Jersey DEP notification. And on February the 18th, the town purchased this property. A host of misinformation and truths about this property have been purposely spread throughout the public on some Facebook pages. And unfortunately, these truths have been accepted as facts and repeated without confirmation by some members of our governing body. Because there has been so much of this misinformation and untruths, time will not permit me to address and set the record straight on all of it tonight. However, I do want to address and set the record straight on 2 of the frequently repeated untruths that the well-known negative Facebook warriors have used in their routine attempts to scare people and to create havoc. Untruth number 1. This untruth states that the soil on the piece of property that the municipality has purchased has been contaminated and on a DEP investigation for contamination for years. The truth is that the soil on this entire piece of property has been thoroughly evaluated, including through the digging of test pits and the scientific analysis of the soil from these test pits. And with the exception of the small amount of lead contaminated soil found on this property, which the DEP has confirmed has been fully cleaned up to their standards, there's never been any contaminated soil found on this piece of property. When this property was owned by Baldwin's Transportation, it was included as part of a DEP investigation of a fuel spill on the piece of property where Bob Baldwin's Transportation has its fueling station. However, the property that the municipality now owns was only included in this investigation because it was a continuous piece of property that was also owned at the time by Bob Baldwin's Transportation, and not because the soil on this property had been either directly or indirectly contaminated by the fuel spill. In addition, on March the 6th, 2016, the DEP issued a report confirming that the piece of property was free of any contamination from the Bob Baldwin Transportation fuel spill and stated that there were no restrictions on the use of this property. While the soil on the now municipal owned property as well as the surrounding properties owned by Bob Baldwin's Transportation, were declared by the DEP in 2016 has been cleaned up with no restriction on its uses. The DEP did put well monitoring devices on the now municipal owned property, as well as surrounding properties owned by Bob Baldwin Transportation and property owned by others. There are two of these well water monitoring devices on the municipal property owned by the town. And they have been routinely checked by the DEP over the past several years. During this period, the well water from these monitoring devices is always tested as being clean and acceptable to DEP standard. While the property that the municipality now owns has been routinely called the Baldwin property, it has not been owned by Bob Baldwin's Transportation for years. And because the DEP's March 6, 2016 report declared that this property had no soil contamination from the Bob Baldwin Transportation fuel spill, and that there were no restrictions on its use, over the past several years, this property has been rented out by the previous owner as pasture land on which cattle have grazed. Untruth number two. This untruth states that if for some unexplained reason, some soil contamination from Bob Baldwin's Transportation fuel spill is later discovered on the property that the municipality now owns, the municipality will be saddled with, quote, millions of dollars of cleanup costs. The truth is that for any cleanup related to an investigation that the DEP has conducted, the responsibility and cost for that cleanup remains with the individual or organization that owned the property at the time that the DEP conducted that investigation. In other words, the purchase of this property by the municipality does not saddle the municipality with millions of dollars of cleanup costs for any contamination related to the now cleaned up Baldwin Transportation fuel spill. As to the actual construction of the town center walking and biking trail, the contractor, Solomon Brothers, has been given a notice to proceed with the implementation of the contract. And I have no reason to believe that the contractor will not be able to start construction on the town center walking and biking trail on or before the April 1 start date that's listed in the contract, and complete the construction of the trail on or before the July 1, 2022 construction date that's also listed in the contract. Mr. Council President and other council members, let me sum up my comments by saying that while we have not agreed on a lot during the first 2 months of this current council's term, I believe that we all agree that this first 2 months of council meetings have not been a period that reflects positively on our town. And while there are always those who, for some strange reason, seem to get enjoyment from conflict and chaos, I strongly believe that the great majority of Vernon residents and business owners want this negative governmental behavior to end. And as I've said before, I understand that the council president and those council members who follow his every lead have some strong political and personal disagreements with the decision by me and the previous 2 councils. As I've also said, from my perspective, that political and personal disagreement is okay, because it's not at all unusual for one political group to disagree with another political group. But disagreement does not mean that we have to allow our town's governing body to be used as a tool for taking revenge, for settling old scores. It is my hope that now that it's clear that the town center walking and biking trail and the town center bicycle pump track amenities are going forward, we can put behind us all of the energy, all of the effort, all of the time aimed at stopping these 2 special amenities, and start to focus on the development of a joint council mayor vision for moving our town forward. You know, Mr. Council President, the majority of this council have elected you to head the legislative branch of our town's government. And majority of the voters of Vernon have elected me to head the executive branch of our town's government. We are the elected leaders. We are the ones who can initiate the change necessary to get our governing body out of this current negative spiral. And Mr. Council President, I ask you to please don't listen to those negative Facebook warriors who will try to convince you that we can't work together. The example has already been set. The example to which I refer is the one set by Council Member and former Council President Shortway and me. During the 2019 Vernon Township Council Mayor election, during the campaign, Councilmember Shortway and I campaigned fair but aggressively against each other. However, because we both wanted to do what was in the best interest of our town, once the election was over, we put the campaign behind us and focused together on those things that would contribute to moving Vernon forward. And for 2 consecutive years, together we changed the image of our town's governing body from that of a group of individuals who were letting their oversized egos get in the way of their town's progress. You and I have the ability to immediately change the negative dynamic that have controlled our town's government during the first 2 months of this year. I again ask that you please join with me in embracing the leadership roles that have been bestowed upon the 2 of us. And let's join together and become the change that we want to see. I am quite eager and ready whenever you are. Thank you.
May I have a motion to open the meeting to the public?
I'll make that motion.
Motion
Open the
made.
meeting to the public.
Thank you. Motion made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carries. The meeting is open to the public for comments on current agenda items. Time is limited to 3 minutes per individual. If you have any questions or comments, please come to the podium and give us your name. We have anybody on?
Good evening. My name is Joe Hessian. I'm the CEO of Snow Partners, parent company of Mount Creek Resort located at 200 Route 94. Thank you for having me. Welcome new council members who I have not been here to greet in person. I would look forward to working with you in town and business. I'm here really just to review high level the pump station, which there was an article in the New Jersey Herald, and I think they get some things right, some things wrong. I think it took maybe an opportunity to sell some newspapers with the title "Vernon seeks to borrow $2.4 million to fix Mountain Creek pump station." And I also want to take a second to thank everyone from the town, a lot of the taxpayers in town, from all the different social media groups on both sides, who didn't take the bait from what that article was trying to say, because we appreciate their support. And I think they've learned over the last few years, if we would have done this 4 years ago, if this article would have come out 4 years ago, there wouldn't fireworks better than the Macy's fireworks over what happened there. But I think they know a little bit of history. For the people that don't know the history, I thought it would be really good just to go through quickly and make sure the issue with the article I have, because there were some facts in the article. The biggest issue is Mountain Creek doesn't own the pump station. So it's really important for everyone to understand that the pump station that is referred to in this article is not owned by Mountain Creek Resort. It's owned by the Township of Vernon. Second, in this article, they talk about, basically, some of how we're going to pay for it and how that works. Mountain Creek in the 2019 agreement has 100% agreed to pay for the enhancement and improvement of this pump station. We do that through the muni fee account. I'm going to look at my notes here real quick, just to make sure we're on the same page. In 2020, we made our first muni fee payment. So basically what happens is we get a bill every January that gives us the amount that Mountain Creek owes for the whole year, right? And we have each quarter to pay it. The way the agreement works is we deplete all of the muni fee account. The muni fee account is 7% of all admissions that the resort collects. Today, our spring passes went on sale. Vernon made over $20,000 today alone, so it's a good day for Vernon and Mountain Creek. So since we've been doing this, In 2020, July 2020, which was our second payment, we paid $856,349. In 2021, we actually paid it early because we whatever's in the account, we give up to the bill, right? So that year, we got to April, so we actually cut off a few months. We paid $763,352. Then in January 2022, which is really exciting, that was this January, we've already paid all of this year's bill ahead of time, and that was $740,551. But that's not all, because I got more good news for you. The current balance in the account as I stand here tonight, not including the $20,000 I just told you, because that's literally from today, is $1.387 million. So we can project that next year, you would imagine our bill is going to come in somewhere between $700,000 and $850,000. We already have enough to pay all of next year as soon as the bill comes in January. One other thing that I think we just have to review real quick is the pump station itself. So it's owned by Vernon. It does service Mountain Creek, as anyone who's on the sewer system north of it, it does. It also does the town center. So this is one other big, people think because of like this article, Mountain Creek's pump station. So a few things. The pump station is owned by Mountain Creek. The pump station, if someone uses the facilities in town center, it flows through that pump station. If someone uses the facilities of Mountain Creek, it goes through that pump station. So, so I think that hopefully really goes through understanding like what the whole purpose of it is. So outside of that, I think there should be a lot of confidence that we have enough money in the muni fee account to pay the next few years. The process is working great. Like I mentioned, I look forward to working with all of you. You know, when we negotiated this deal, it was actually Mayor Shorway back then and Town Council President Murphy. And if anyone remembers back then, they did not get along great. And we worked together with both sides, which Mountain Creek will continue to do. And we'll do everything we can to make sure we get this right. But just to reiterate, it's called Sand Hill Pump Station or Pump House 2. It's not owned by Mountain Creek, but we are, and just make sure we're on the same page here. We are under obligation, and we are going to pay, even though it's not only we don't own it. It's not solely used for us. We through the muni fee are paying for it 100%. And if I have one more point, if you allow me that. If sometimes, and you might think this is odd that I would say, why would I show someone the way to negotiate against me? I like to negotiate the way I should be negotiating. So the way to properly negotiate against Mountain Creek and myself on this matter would not be to either do it or not, or to get the bond to do it or not. Because I'll tell you, I'm going to end up paying for this pump station if I like it or not, one way or another. Interest rates are really low right now. So if you can continue to get those low interest rates, it's going to actually help me in the long term, because the muni fee money is not free money. It is actually our money. And we are paying for it. So if you guys don't do it now, that's fine. In the future, someone will. I'm obligated to pay for it either way. So I'm paying for this pump station now or in the future. The appropriate way to negotiate against me, I, being the person buying or paying for the pump station, but doesn't own the pump station or doesn't fully use the pump station, I want to have a really good pump station that does its job, which is efficient and gets it done. I want a really good, compact car that does the job and isn't overbuilt, right? Because remember, I'm paying for this. Someone who is negotiating against me might want a Rolls Royce and something that's really expensive and really big. Now, I don't think that's happening here. I think that, so when we negotiate, really what I'm looking for is the good negotiation. So the good debate that should be had here is, listen, that seems a little aggressive. Maybe we could get it done for $1 million versus $1.5 million, or maybe $1.8 million instead of $5 million or $6 million. So it's not that I'm here to negotiate that now, but I'm saying if we were to negotiate on this, which I don't think we are, the negotiation is, how big do you want to build it? And I don't want to build it to be huge because it would be a waste of my resources.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else from the floor that has a Some comments?
Good evening. My name is Camilla DeRosta. I'd like to submit a petition from the concerned merchants of our town. The most common reply I heard was, "What's wrong with them?" Most were incredulous that the council was against the pump track. Some have come tonight to listen to your answer. I would like to suggest a letter of apology to be sent to Spawn Ranch in hopes that will drop the threatened lawsuit for
Excuse me,
nation.
go ahead. Never.
The town does not need to hire an additional attorney when an apology is in order. The council should move on and concentrate on projects to lift the town from the pandemic. I suggest looking into forming a municipal broadband service, which can be win-win for the town and its citizens. It's also time to look into a light rail link to bring the town into the 21st century. There should be money available in the recently passed Build Back Better legislation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I have the petition.
Leave it with the clerk.
Early agenda item.
May I have anybody else have comments for the council? Do we have anything up?
Yes, I have Tom McClackery.
Mr. McClackery? Mr. McClackery? Hi,
Yes.
hello.
Good, good. I listened to what Mr. Hessian said. I also have been following this for a couple of months now. And I'm talking about the Sandhill pump station. Originally back in 2000, when I was following this up to 2008, Interwest was going to pay for everything. They made a couple of promises between 2008 and 2012 that they were going to pay for the pump station, which we're not paying for. I think we're talking about $2.4 million. It has gone up in that time from 1 million to 2.4. And the only area that pump station services is the Appalachian, the Red Hawk subway station, imitation subway station, best imitation subway station I've ever seen, and Black Creek development there. Other than that, it doesn't serve the town center because the town center should disconnect from that pump station. You have a pressurized pipe that can deliver the flow from the town center to the Sussex County collection station. And a long story short here, Mr. Hessian says that he's going to pay for it. Not true. It's going to be over the entire base because there's no flow meters on the station, not from the town center. There's no flow meter from Appalachian, Red Tail, and Black Creek into the station. So how are you going to figure out how much they're paying? I don't know, but hey, long story short, it's a long history of a lot of promises and not a lot of delivery. And jumping to the MUA, if I hear one more time that we're going to have to pay Sussex County 1.5 million, and then it's going to be the taxpayers. Well, there's a couple of contracts there that says Interwest was supposed to pay 100% of it. So maybe you should sit down and start reading those contracts and stop saying it's up to the taxpayers. And that's me for the night, and thank you.
Thank you. there anyone else?
Yes, I have Jessica Palladini.
Mrs. Palladini?
Good evening. I just want to say a couple of things quickly. I don't know who that woman was who spoke, but you owe no apology to Spawn Ranch or to anyone. That was completely a Howard Burrell orchestrated charade, period. I have nothing against Mountain Creek and the pump station. As you know, I was the recording secretary for the MUA for almost 8 years. So I don't have any problem with what they want to do, but I do want to tell you that Mr. Hessian spoke for 8 minutes. And later at the second portion of the public comment period, I have 3 brief things that I want to read. And I hope you will give me the same consideration if I go over to 4 or 5 minutes. What I really want to say during this portion, though, is that Peg DeStasi and I attended the MUA meeting, the last meeting that they had, and we asked questions about this pump station, and we asked questions about the amount of money that the town is bonding for. And the director of the MUA, whom I believe is in conflict in even being the director, absolutely refused to answer anything. So I hope that tonight, when you have the public hearing, you are going to answer citizens' questions, while Ms. Donnell Bright would not. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have Peg DeStasi.
Mr. Stassi?
Good evening, Peg
Good evening.
DeStasi, 35-year resident, Glenwood. I support Resolution 22-58. The Vernon residents are entitled to a clear and concise explanation of the Baldwin purchase, especially due to the clandestine closing that took place last week. Due to the required monitoring until 2029 by the DEP, what is the procedural plan that has been put in place to comply? As stated by the company who monitors the wells, the water, although better, is still not clear. So, Mayor, you've made an incorrect statement. The definition of perpetuity is forever. The land will pass from generation to generation in perpetuity is stated in the contract. We will be held responsible. So, Mayor, your statement that the responsibility lies with Baldwin is not accurate. I will again state, I believe that the mayor's actions and activities must be monitored by an oversight committee. He is receiving information and being directed in many areas erroneously. Mayor, your attitude is condescending, not only to the council, but to the residents who are deeply concerned about our future. As residents, we have the right and the duty to ask questions. As a new council, they sat and asked you in a previous meeting to come and update them, which you were unprepared to do. That has left a great deal of doubt in the plan. In addition, as you mentioned in your comments tonight, as required by state law, the Spawn Ranch was not the lowest bid received on the pump track. So why were they awarded when a local company came in lower? You seem to think it's okay on one side of the plan, but not on the other. That doesn't make sense. What should be consistent. I'm moving on to the bill list. I'm sorry, 22-06. Their capital improvements for $20,000. I would suggest that details be included in the resolution. What's the $20,000 for? It's very unclear in the way the resolution is written. Thank you. I have comments for later, but I'll reserve my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stassi.
It says Moto G Stylus.
I'm sorry?
Moto G Stylus, what it says. I don't know the name.
Mr. Stylus or Miss Stylus?
You're muted.
Can you hear me? Can you hear us? Please unmute. If not, we'll move on. Let's move on.
That's, I saw another hand go up. I'm sorry. Keeps going up and down. Let me see if I can get her. Stephanie. Stephanie Vaccarello.
Ms. Vaccarello?
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you very much. I just wanted to ask, Stephanie Vaccarello of Glenwood section of Vernon. I wanted to ask the mayor a question. I don't know if I'll get an answer, but I thought I'd give it a whirl. As far as the Baldwin property goes, I'm wondering why, number one, and correct me if I'm wrong, Council President, that some of the board members were not made aware of the closing. Is that true? Did that happen without your knowledge?
We found out about the closing
After
after
the
the
concert?
closing was done.
Okay, I thought so. If there was no contamination on this property, why is it that when you did the phase 2 remediation without authority, you did it after you found the contamination in phase 1? So what was the point of the phase 2 remediation if there was no contamination? I don't think anyone does not want to see this town grow. I've been here 25 years. I think even my kids, who are high school kids, they won't have it long, would love to see a pump track. It's not about the pump track. It's about where it is. It's about, and these are questions I have. What kind of revenue is it going to bring? We're spending so much money. The amount of money that I think you have told us it's going to cost is not accurate. I think there are so many things that are not being taken into consideration. I'd love to go into town and walk around and shop and do. You can't get through town. Where are you going to walk? To CVS? I mean, there's nothing going on in that town. It's not a town center. I would not call that a town center. I am very upset that our mayor, you're making fun of citizens. You're ignoring us. You're calling people that don't agree with you Facebook warriors. Come on. How are we going to get together when you, Mr. Mayor, didn't even tell the new council members and the president that you were closing on that property? Why? And why don't we have the Vernon Facebook page up anymore? Where did that go? What's going on? There are also members that are on committees in this town trashing people, okay, that don't agree. And I think it's disgraceful. I think if you are an employee or you're on a committee in this town, you're held to a higher standard. Act like you
10
should.
seconds, Mrs. Vaccarello.
Okay, well, thank you. I don't want to go over. Those are just some questions I have. I hope they get answered, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you very much for your comments.
I only have this Moto Stylus.
Okay,
See if he'll.
one more time. Moto Stylus?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good evening. This is in reference to the new pump station.
What's your name?
Excuse me.
Name, please?
Oh, Steve Visaggio. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. This is in reference to the new pump station or projected new pump station. Residents here on Old Root Town Road we just received mailings of a company in Brooklyn, New York, purchased all the property behind the private homes between Route 94 and Root Town Road, which is part of 517, which is mostly wetlands back there. Now, beside that, what is the new pump station going to be able to service 350 plus luxury apartments plus private homes in this area that was just purchased?
Well,
That's my question.
I know nothing about that. However, if indeed that's true, that's probably one of the greatest surprises I've had, but it also gives me pause and also further concern because of the need for further development along the 94 corridor.
This is not further
on a-
development. This is apartment buildings.
Well, that's what I meant. No, I'm not talking about development there. I'm talking about within our sewer service area. Expanding that.
Well, not only that, but these buildings are going to be built behind our private homes.
I know nothing about it. You're telling me something that is news to me and.
Well, like I said, the residents on Old Root Town got the mailings from this 2-year-old company from Brooklyn that bought all that property between 94 and Root Town Road. And that's mainly all wetlands back here.
Yes, I know.
And I'm kind of curious as how it was even sold. Who owned the property?
And they're projecting 350.
We'd have to
And
check
they're
on that.
projecting over 350 luxury apartments, plus private homes.
Mhm.
I don't think it's in the sewer service area.
Well,
Probably.
maybe it would be beneficial to look into it.
Thank you, we will. Perhaps our mayor can update us. Maybe a little
Okay.
more. In
Okay.
time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes. Ann Larson.
Ms. Larson, how,
Evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
fine, thank you.
Good. Hi. So thank you. I just want to take a moment. The first thing I'd like to say, Council President Rosero, is I'd like to apologize on behalf of the people of Vernon for that hideously humiliating letter that our mayor chose to write to the editor. A man that lives 300 feet from you communicates not to you, but through the newspaper, and then has the audacity to sit here and talk about keyboard warriors and Facebook people. There's clearly a disconnect here. He doesn't see that he is mostly the cause of all the problems with the unrest in the township regarding the purchases and the things that are going on. As far as the things he's doing, closing without notifying the rest of the council, that's a dirty thing. I don't know enough about it. I guess I'll look into it if that's a sunshine violation, but sending copies of emails and letters he's sending out to just Councilman Shortway and Mr. Fury instead of to the entire council, these are all improprieties. These are all improprieties. And then he wants to sit there and point fingers at other people. And you know what? If you have such documentation on that pump track, be it on the land being so great, why don't you be transparent and post it? Why is everything a big, dark secret with you? It's all this convoluted backdoor nonsense. This is why people are unhappy. They look at the bills list. We see all kinds of expenses for a snowshoe thing and a clock for $800 and something and fleece. You know what I want to see on the bills list? I don't just want to see the checks going out. I want to see the purchase orders. I want to see the invoices. I want to see who signed off on this stuff, because clearly we need an adult to supervise what's going on there. There's just too many childish antics. I think his entire calendar should be monitored. We need to know who goes in to meet with him, what they're discussing and why, because the truth is we cannot trust him to act on our behalf. His behavior is not on the, in the best interest of Vernon Township. So we need to monitor what he's doing and supervise the activities that are going on in the municipal office, because it's not going well for us. If he's got documentation proving that the land is so great, they would have pulled the monitoring wells out. They don't leave monitoring wells in good property. So if my time's up, thank you, and I've got more for later. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have Christine Dunn.
Mrs. Dunn?
Hi, my name is Christine Dunn, and I live in Glenwood, New Jersey. And I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on like what Stephanie had to say about like the projects that we do in this town. And I have no problem with the pump track, and I think it's kind of a cool idea. It's the way everybody's going about it. It does seem very sneaky between the property and things like that. And just everything that goes on in Vernon is just like half-assed projects. Like the town center to begin with was supposed to be this nice town center, you know, maybe compete with Warwick. And look at it. It's now they're saying, oh, if we add the pump track, that's going to do it. That's going to be another project that seems like it's going to be half started and not finished. Just like Maple Grange Park. Maple Grange Park is beautiful. And that's something that I think we all can agree that we're all proud of and is great. And I'm sure mostly everybody uses it. But a couple years ago, wasn't there not enough money to update the fields, to maintain them or whatever? And it almost closed down. Come on now, people, let's get it together. And you can't blame the people that were on the, you know, the new council members. And Mayor, I just want to say that I voted for you, but I'm very disappointed in you, especially in the last 2 months with the new council. We voted in a new council for a reason. And I just want to say I'm really disappointed in the way that things have been going in the last 2 months. I've probably been only watching these meetings probably within the past 8 months. And the old council had no transparency. The last couple of people have been right. They don't answer questions. Mayor, you talk about Facebook warriors, but you have your own Facebook warriors on Facebook who post things, and they're part of the council as well. And they don't even allow any kind of comments on their posts. So I think maybe I've noticed maybe in the past week or two, starting to notice comments. But I mean, if you guys don't want to answer questions, I mean, that's what you guys are here for. That's what we, you know, that's what we elect you for. I don't want to keep coming to these council meetings and listening to you. I voted for the council members because I don't want to do it. I want to trust the people that we're electing to make the good decisions for us. And I hope you guys can start working together, because I was having a lot of hope in the new council. And now with what the old council people are doing and the old mayor not going to meetings, so you can't answer questions about the Baldwin property. And then the mayor getting all these, the council gives them a list of questions and he doesn't answer them. I mean, this is embarrassing for our town. Please start to work together. Thank you.
I have Walter Marsico.
Mr. Marsico?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Walter Marsico, 40+ year resident of Vernon. I'm from the Settlers Notch area of Vernon. I had a lot to say, but most of it was taken away by Christine Dunn and Ann Larson, who said a lot of good things that I wanted to, so there's not much to say. I just want to say that there is zero transparency with the mayor. Pretty much everything he just said is not even close to the truth. He puts on a good show, but we all know it's fake. And the amount of residents that are becoming alert to what's going on is growing every day. And honestly, you're the mayor. Who are you calling Facebook warriors? People that don't agree with you? Do you at all think that's right, or something, any way a mayor should be acting? It's despicable. People, residents, taxpayers of this township are called prolific Facebook warriors, as you said, because they don't agree with the garbage that you're shelling out. Get it together, because the people that are fed up with the nonsense is growing by the day. And there are no Facebook warriors here. It's called opinions and statements and concerns. So lose that term. Thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Marsico.
I have Sean Clarkin.
Mr. Clarkin, how are you? Mr. Clarkin?
Mr. Clarkin? Yeah, I think I just unmuted. Give me 1 second because you might get some feedback. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Fine, thank you.
Okay, sounds great. All right. The first thing I just want to say is Joe Hession has always had a really good reputation, and Joe grew up in Vernon, and he used to be a parking lot attendant at Mountain Creek, and now he's running the show. So it's a really, not a rags to riches story, but it's a very nice success story. Joe Hession does not own Mountain Creek. Joe Hession has partners who are the same partners that were involved when the Mulvihills were there. So as much as Joe Hession has a really good reputation with us, he has partners that are leftovers from the Mulvihill days of where they went bankrupt on a regular basis. Joe Hession, if his partners decide to go bankrupt tomorrow, we have no recourse, okay? They're asking for us to co-sign a mortgage to rebuild the loan. We're going to borrow money from the state of New Jersey to fix a dam that's on state land because Mountain Creek wants us to help them do it, okay? That is a terrible risk for the property taxpayers of New Jersey. It's a huge risk. And if Mountain Creek goes belly up, the taxpayers will end up paying for that dam up on top of the mountain that Mountain Creek uses to run their operation. So I have no axe to grind when it comes to Mountain Creek, and I certainly do not have an axe to grind when it comes to Joe Hession, but Joe Hession is not Mountain Creek. There are partners in the background that own and operate the business the way they did when the Mulvihills were there. And the Mulvihill reputation was built on decisions that those other silent partners are making. So with that being said, I hope the council is very, very careful as they move forward. Joe's a great guy, but the people behind Joe are the same people that were there with the Mulvihills. As far as the mayor is concerned, he's a slick guy. The mayor's going to say whatever he has to say to make a deal. And he admitted that in either the last meeting or the meeting before when we asked him about the marijuana pot stores and the distance. He admitted, I was trying to make a deal. And that's what he's all about. And we cannot trust him. Okay. He went ahead and bought a property that the property taxpayers of Vernon did not want to purchase. And he purchased it anyway. We need to tie his hands behind his back and only allow him to do things that the taxpayers say he can do. Okay. The taxpayers voted.
10 seconds.
Taxpayers voted, and we put a new council in place for a reason. Okay. One last thing I want to say. Thank you. One last thing. The town center is not being held back because it doesn't have sewer and water service. The town center is being held back because the property owners who own the vacant lots are not selling them or making them available to be developed at reasonable prices. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
I have no other hands up.
Is there anyone else from the floor?
Good evening, Steve.
Good evening, Mr.
Davis, not a Facebook warrior. I have come before the council on several occasions in the last 4 months and have specifically pointed out lies that our mayor has told. He's never rebutted any of them. He just keeps referring to Facebook warriors. Our appointed council member recently referred to us as Palladini warriors. I think it's pretty dangerous. God knows I've had my problems with Mrs. Palladini. I believe the attorney may have given some faulty advice at the last meeting where the council wanted to go into executive session And it was indicated maybe that wouldn't be the right thing to do because it wasn't on the agenda. I don't believe that to be the case. I believe that the town council president sets the agenda and sets the meeting, and that he can gavel and call for a recess and go to executive session anytime he wants to. I believe that should have been done. I know that you have the resolution for a conflict attorney. I'm afraid that's going to be tabled or just set aside. People feeling that nothing can be done. Well, it's already done. The mayor's already done his dastardly deeds, and we have a pump track, which he did with DPW workers, and we have a walking and biking trail, and that there's nothing to be done. I don't think that's the case. I think that there have been things that may be felonious, and I think there needs to be a conflict attorney. I think that we need to get to the bottom of what's going on. I have no confidence in anything the mayor has said. Two of the first lies he told us was that the MUA was the responsibility of the youth. And then less than 60 days after being sworn into office, he's quoted the newspaper saying that it's responsibility of all taxpayers. Until such time as the township's ready to subsidize my septic system, I don't really think that I should be subsidizing that. The other issue was the no more trails. He came to the high school, he made a big pitch, and he said, we don't need any more trails. We have plenty of trails. And he's just turned around and lied repeatedly. I'm one of the few that come here and call him on it. As I say, he has never once specifically disputed any of the lies that I have brought to his attention. He just says, oh, they're Facebook warriors. The action that he took, putting that article, his comments from the last meeting in the paper was unconscionable. I don't know how he could even show up for this meeting after doing such a thing, after saying he wanted everyone to come together and keeping the township out of the paper. I find him to be a despicable individual, and I'm sorry that he's our mayor. He won by 116 votes by telling lies. He's not here. I think the only thing that we can possibly do is to try to recall him. And I think that effort should be made.
Thank you.
And I really think that we should move ahead with this conflict attorney and try to get to the bottom of some of the actions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No.
Anyone else? Seeing no one coming forward, I ask for a motion to close.
Motion.
Any comments from the floor? Motion is made by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second? I'm sorry, second by Mr. Fury. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. This evening, we have with us members of the Municipal Utilities Authority and its director, Mrs. Bright, and Mr. Carney, who is chairman of the committee, and Mr. DeYoung, who's a member of the committee. Welcome. This, I don't know what's going on in the past few years, but I do know that when the committee was formed back when, that part of the part of the caveat and the directions given to the committee, that in the month of February, a written report would be offered to the council, followed by an oral report for, follow-up questioning. So I don't know if this has been done in the past, but I just thought it would be a good idea to have new council members being brought up to date. So Mr. Carney, as chairman of the Municipal Utilities Authority, can you give us a report, please?
I believe you all issued a report, correct?
Thank you for the report, by the way.
Thank you.
Pretty much speaks for itself. It just lays out what we've done in the last year. And I try to get rates stabilized, try to save some money.
Move your microphone closer so we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, on the bottom.
Oh, okay. Hear me now?
You're fine.
So this report kind of gives a summary of past year. Things we've done to stabilize rates, things we've done to reduce costs. Because as everyone knows, financially, the MUA is not in great shape. We have bills coming due soon, and we're working together to do everything we can to try to keep the MUA responsible for it, because I know everyone doesn't know that, but the way the MUA is set up is if the MUA defaults, that goes to the town. And I remember a number of years back, you actually addressed when one of my first meetings, the council president was here, and he said, you know, I'm not on the system, and we got to get this to the point where, you know, I have septic, I shouldn't have to pay. I have septic, I feel the same way. And there's a lot of people in this town that aren't on the system. And I'm cognizant of that. The whole board is, and we're doing what we can to try to make it so that doesn't happen, so that that doesn't go back to the town. We're working on sewer expansion. We did a lot of work with our engineers. The DEP had to come, you know, approve everything. That took quite a long time. I think the COVID situation set them back even further in their process. So that's underway now. Hopefully that all gets completely firmed up and we could plan on sewer expansion. Mr. Hessian filled everybody in on the pump station pretty much. That has to be taken care of. That's a liability as it stands right now, both for possible safety concerns, for environmental concerns. So that's on its way to getting taken care of. That's something that's been in the hopper. Finally seeing a light at the end of the tunnel of getting that project underway.
Asset management plan.
Marcy, can those microphones be turned?
Try, sure.
This one's actually not staying on.
People at home cannot hear.
Can we move it this way?
I'm speaking.
Yeah, that works.
Maybe move that
Maybe
little
if you can
disc.
move the,
Oh, you want
Yes.
the whole thing closer to you.
Yeah, because that's what the Zoom call. The desk thing, right, Marcy?
Reach? That's not gonna reach.
We could just speak up.
Yeah, we can speak up.
They can, I'm kind of loud.
That's fine.
That much closer to
I
you.
don't think you're yelling at
Connie,
us. It's okay.
You're a soft-spoken guy carrying an awful lot of responsibility here.
That's right.
That's something my mother never said. So that's- we've also found areas that were deals that were made years back for whatever reason that are not, say, equitable for our MUA, where we're paying much higher rates than other towns for what we're sending to them, to the county, which is actually against state statute. So that's something we're trying to do something about. Anything we can do to lower the cost and get things back in line. I mean, we've overpaid, I think it was $3 million, I think, over the last couple of years because of, you know, that the rates being 3.3 million because we're paying a higher rate than a lot of the other towns. So we're working towards getting our financially stable, and hopefully we won't have it fall back to the town, because like I said, then it goes on everybody. And that's not what we want. And want to speak of the asset management plan a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So the authority finished the asset management plan that was approved back through a bond ordinance in 2018 for, I believe it was $140,000. So they did finally finish that. Last year, we assessed the force main. We've assessed visually the force main from what we can see along the railroad. The next project, that's one of our big projects for next year, is to assess the force main that runs along the railroad from Pump Station 2 out to Skooma. So we did finish that this year. One of the large projects, as Mr. Carney mentioned was pump station 2. That was in the asset management plan and noted that it's deteriorated. If anyone would like to see a copy of that asset management plan, it's on our website. So there are quick pictures. It is an old pump station. So the good thing about it being included in the asset management plan, pump station 2, is that if it's approved through the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank to be replaced and approved for funding through that, they'll actually forgive all the principal that's associated with the asset management plan. So it costs just under $100,000 to do all the work with the asset management plan. All the television work that we had to do in the pipes to do the force main, they'll forgive all of that as long as it goes through the infrastructure bank. So
When do you find out about that?
I'm sorry,
When,
when do we find out about that? The specs are right now in with iBank and DEP, so they work together to approve the specs for the replacement of pump station 2. And once that gets approved, it's in process. So they said that they would get back to us actually at the end of this week.
really?
So I'm kind of hoping that that's accurate. Like Mr. Carney said, they have been working from home mostly, so a lot of things have taken
Yeah.
a bit of time. But the MUA is looking forward to pump station 2 hopefully being completely finished and constructed by the end of this year.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a couple questions. Donnell, first of all, thank you for the report that you sent out. It was very well written. In 2021, I believe the COVID relief money was available to the town, and the town turned it into the MUA. Am I correct?
No, so,
Okay.
yeah, so there's a bit of a misunderstanding with that. So, the American Rescue Plan money, we were given just over $2.2 million, about $2.2 million for that relief money. So there are a number of items that could be used for that money. The township chose to use it towards water and sewer infrastructure. So they passed a capital ordinance for water or sewer infrastructure. That money, that's township money. So that money was not given to the MUA. It will not be given to the MUA. The township has moved forward. They appointed Dewberry engineers last year to work on a water project to connect water in town center, to bring water to town center because that is lacking in certain areas in town center. So no, the money is not given to the MUA. The MUA does not have a water utility. So the money has not gone there.
The only benefit you get from that, if any, is the availability of water?
For the water, well, for the water project, just the water project. So there's a number of phases that we have. So one, it would be to bring water along Route 515, the intersection of Route 94. Right now, there's a dry pipe along Main Street, but it's not connected to Suez's water in town center, right at the intersection. And there is a plan to possibly bring water further down, like onto 94 to kind of create a loop up through Church Street possibly. We do have Dewberry working on the specs of those. That's a project in and of itself.
What about the area around Omega Drive?
So Omega Drive already has water. Church Street has water. There will need to be an expanded water line, I
Is
believe.
there enough water there for expanded development in that area?
So so right now that's a Suez area. That's not a township owned area.
Right.
It's a Suez franchise area. I can't really speak to what they provide. What are they called? Will serve. I couldn't think of the word. Yeah. I'm not sure what will serve letters they've provided and what they have not.
Okay. Mike, you're looking at me as if you want to say something.
Yeah, there's part of the project, the water project is which is they're talking to Suez, is that there's a possibility that they have to upgrade their wells down by Mountain Creek South in order to supply enough water to the center. So that's the negotiation, active negotiation that's going on with Suez right now.
Okay.
This is just to let you know, to make it clear, this is a township project.
Right, no, this is not
the MUA.
Not the MUA. I understand.
Yeah.
And Mr. President, back in 2017, I believe it was, Suez gave the corporation over here that was going to build the restricted living 55 units, they got a will serve letter then. And I believe they got another one in the end of 2018 or 19.
Correct.
So they have had will serve letters that there's enough volume. My understanding is, I'm going by memory now, they have still 100,000 gallons allotted for them on their permit.
Okay.
What has to be done, well, if that's center was ever built. I think it's like an 1.25 line, inch or 2 inch.
line. They'd
And
have
they
to
have to
upgrade.
do like a 6 or 8 inch line to bring that much water. But back then, Suez had enough water. They did have a will serve letter. They expired, but there hasn't been any other development calling for that.
Does that will serve letter travel with the project or with the owner?
I thought it was the area, but I'm not Suez.
I think it's the project.
I think the project.
Okay.
Because they.
Thank you,
says the
thank you,
project.
Corey.
Is that true?
All right.
Am I right on those dates? Do you remember?
It's a project. It's
Yeah.
the project itself, not the property owners.
Okay.
So I just want to have a follow-up question to what I had asked. Now, it went from that rescue plan money was 2.2, not 1.7.
Mhm.
And was it a loan or was it just, do we have to pay that back is what I'm saying?
Grant.
Grant money.
Grant money.
I didn't know whether we had to pay it back.
Right, it's grant money. And so just to be clear, because I just wanted to, you just mentioned the difference between the 2.2 and the 1.75. So our capital ordinance was 1.75. The original estimates that we had gotten from Suez for water infrastructure were higher than 2.2. So the idea for me as the CFO for the township is that we don't want to see taxpayers have to pay towards, like put the down payment on something like that. So what we did was we put aside the 400,000, let's say we put it aside, and that's not allocated for yet. So that is not appropriated. At some point in the future, once we have full pricing on what everything might cost, then we might have to come and say, okay, if the project is over 2.2, that's up to the township to decide if they wanted to move forward and do the remainder of that project.
Okay. I don't have any.
Thank you, Mr. Carney and Ms. Bright for coming. I appreciate it. I appreciated reading your report. I did make a couple notes. So I saw that you cut connection rates for the first time in an effort to attract, more users to connect. Did you have more users connecting? Have you seen any positive?
So we will be connecting the Faline building. That's almost finished. I believe that was at the old rate though, not the new one. The new one was not passed until later on in the year.
Okay.
So we have not seen that.
Okay. All right. So no new connections since when did you cut that rate? When did that happen?
November. I was gonna say
So
October.
pretty recently. So just,
Over.
okay. So within months. Okay. All right. I wasn't sure when you did that. And then you were working with the DEP to obtain approval for areas to be added to the sewer service agreement area. So what will be added? Have you determined that already? Are you still working with the DEP?
So that's been a very long process.
Okay, I'm not surprised. Yeah. I'm not surprised. And
Process for the sewer service area. So we were in long discussions with the DEP about specific expanded areas beyond, like over by McAfee, as well as behind Dairy Queen. It was very long and drawn out. The maps for expansion are on the website too.
Okay.
I can provide you links if that makes it easier.
Okay, yeah.
Or just provide you the maps after the meeting. So we're in that process. I'm actually reaching out to the engineer this week to send them an updated map. It's a back and forth.
So you haven't, so that hasn't been finalized yet. You're still working with them. Okay.
No, and that's actually a whole process of approval that we have to go to. It's not just, okay, the DEP says, okay, and then the MUA, the township has an updated sewer service area. It requires, I believe, approval by the county. It requires public hearings here at the council level. And then a formal approval process by the state.
Okay, after the council does their approval, goes back to Trenton then.
Right.
Okay, so like timeline, I mean, are we talking, could it even happen in 2022?
I would love to have it happen in 2022, but I honestly don't
know. Okay.
The agendas of the DEP.
Yeah, exactly. No, I totally understand that. Just, I'm not gonna hold you to it. I wouldn't hold you to it at all. Just, I think that was it.
That's it?
Thank you.
Okay, I have a few questions. On the pump station 2 specs, I share in Mr. Hessian's concern. I too believe that, if you can get away with a compact car, no reason to build a Rolls Royce. Saves money, and I can't stand wasted money. As the pump station is presently being bid right now for that's up for the bond. Are the specifications for that based upon the earlier specifications made many years ago by either Mountain Creek and or the owners of the condos? Or are these updated specifications?
So these are all updated specifications that Dewberry has put together. And they've done their own. They haven't used, prior specs and just sent them forward. So they've done their own.
Are we looking at any other specifications from different engineering firms?
No, the MUA appointed their own engineer. So the MUA's it's Dewberry Engineers that's handling it.
I understand, but we bid for a project. Would it not be worthwhile or concerned to bid for something like this?
For engineering.
So
For engineers, you gotta,
You don't have to. I know it's
you gotta pay for a firm there's no bidding, you got an engineering firm. If you want another one, you're gonna pay them the same fee. So when you're locked into an engineering firm, it's kind of, you hope that they're doing their due diligence and, you look it over yourself. But when it comes to the building of the pump station, that would go to bid.
Okay, I see.
And I will say too, for the MUA, because I'm not sure if anyone is aware of this, the MUA did go out to an open, not bid, request for proposals
Yeah.
for engineers. So they did go through the whole process and
All right.
open their process in appointing their engineer.
Okay, thank you. Have all potential users of the sewer system been placed online as right now?
All potential users?
In other words,
So the sewer service area includes a number of properties, and a lot of those properties cannot actually have physical access because there's no pipe in front of them, right? So a good example is Route 94. Half of it can be connected to the sewers and the other half cannot because of where the pipe's located.
okay,
So the ones that can physically be connected, yes, they are. The ones that cannot, obviously cannot.
so what stops us from putting connection to the pipe or laying pipe?
Nothing stops us. I mean,
The-
money. Cost.
So essentially,
Cost and money.
my question to you is if we can, for example, double the number of users by putting out connections, what stops us from?
I think where the line is part of the issue. The line didn't go down 94 where both sides could come into it.
Right,
It's down in the back.
okay,
So every road coming down from the other side, you'd be crossing 94 constantly and then going all the way down to the back. And that's not something that can't be done, but laying pipe is expensive.
so does that mean that the initial installation of the lines were done in such a way that it's going to be too expensive to put, let's say, half the people on that line in the sewer service area?
I don't want to commit to that statement, but
Sounds good, though.
yeah.
You didn't say it.
Are all the existing users paying for sewer fees and connection?
They're billed for use fees and connection fees. Yes. I don't have anyone who has not paid a connection.
Okay, what is our collection rate? Is it pretty good?
Our collection rate is fairly good, yes.
90 plus? What,
I don't want to commit to a number. I don't know that number though. I can definitely look up the percentage for you.
please.
Mhm.
Are all of the sewer service charges that existing customers are paying based on rate information supplied by the township tax assessor?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
When you determine the EDU
Mhm.
for each of these users, is that information supplied as to what type of unit you're looking at by the tax assessor or by another entity?
So if somebody comes in and they say, okay, I'm building, I'm connecting this building, we would go by what the tax assessor has on their record.
Is that ongoing?
I'm sorry, I don't understand. It's like, is it ongoing?
Is that how you determine EUs for?
EDUs, so EDUs are either determined by the engineer. Most of the time it's determined by the engineer. If an application comes through, they determine what it's going to be. It could be retrofitting an old building to a restaurant, if it was a home before and a restaurant, or a retail establishment to a restaurant, or vice versa, right? That's going to include the engineer. If it's a home being built, that's a set standard. So if it's a 3-bedroom home, it's going to be 1 EDU. If it's a 2-bedroom home, it's going to be 0.88. If it's 1, if it's 0.6. Those are set fairly.
So for example, if a group of homes or buildings were charged a lesser rate, and that information was given from a source who was, not in the know, so to speak, the corrections would be made by the information gained from the taxpayer, from the tax assessor.
Yes. So if there are any bills that are not correctly being billed, then they will be corrected based on the tax assessor's
Okay,
listing.
all right. If there's a major difference in terms of what was and what is going to be, would the council be advised of that?
The MUA would address that and the township will be advised.
Would the council be advised?
That should include the council.
Okay. So, thank you. Have all of the potential users on the Route 94 corridor been approached? Now, that kind of may be jumping ahead. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it was, when Mr. Lynch was council president, I believe in 2016, a resolution was passed for a study to be conducted along the Route 94 corridor for submission by the MUA for submission to the state, for NJDEP, for where the property, what other properties would be considered as potential users.
It was the extension of the sewer.
Yeah, the extension of the sewer service area. In 2017, initially it was suspended and later it was reinstated sometime in, I think in the early spring. That study should have been completed because right after that year, I believe I left the council. Is there an existing study that the MUA has regarding that Route 94 corridor that is either being held or submitted to the NJDEP with the potential users?
I'm not aware of any
Not that I'm-
specific study.
Specific
I'm not-
94.
I'm not aware of a specific study. I can look into.
It was passed in December of 2015.
15 or
And
16?
then 15.
15, I'm
And then
sorry.
January of 2016, it was taken off because the council at the time didn't want to do it.
Yeah, it was suspended and then it was later in that year, it was reinstated. And that study should have been completed by the MUA because it was for the basis for a substantial addition to the users on the Route 94 corridor. I mean, the issue at the time, as we all had discussed, was when you go down Route 94, you may think of septics or whatever, but look to the sides, left and right, especially to the right, and you see nothing but ledge rock. And as far as I know, there isn't a way to perk ledge rock. So, my question is, does that study exist? And if it does, was it ever sent down to the DEP?
I think I might be able to. Answer.
Okay, Mike.
So I can't speak for, I wasn't on the MUA back then, but I do know that's the basis of the sewer service area. And that's why the township is approaching, and we approach the town, DEP exclusively, not the county, but they're allowed us to look at our sewer service area in order to expand the sewer service area.
Right.
And that corridor, the Route 94 corridor that you're talking about, which does not have sewer pipes, that's one of the sewer service areas that's being considered, that we're being proposed onto the DEP, which we have to get approval for in order to.
Well, that study with a follow-up was done in 2016. So it's 2022.
Right,
You're looking at 6 years later.
right.
And there seems to be no movement from the time when I and Mr. Lynch sat on the council together and moved this along, because it was our contention, and it still is our contention, that the only way we're going to make this sewer service area pay is, of course, by getting greater user on it, okay, greater users on it. And we're looking at areas on 94 where there are substantial EDUs. Now, people may not like to hear the fact that they're going to have to plunk down a whole bunch of money in order to hook up. But for some of these businesses, the cost for putting in a septic system is going to be a heck of a lot more.
Absolutely.
And I think nobody will disagree with that. So, and besides that, much to those people who say that, you know, I'm a questionable environmentalist, there is no reason why that material should be put into a situation where it's going into wetlands, because it's not going to be going down. It's going to be running over that rock. And I think we all understand that.
If in fact we do get more users to go onto the line, are we able to offer them a discount to hook up?
It's our rates already this year.
They just cut the rate.
Just the connection fee I'm talking about.
So there are certain things that the MUA can do, where they can take a connection fee and they can say, okay, let's say, we're gonna do half a connection fee. That's obviously up to the MUA to decide how they want to do that. But yes, in order to get them to connect, right? So if you connect in the first year, you can do that. The MUA doesn't have the ability, other than we have in our rules and regulations, if the pipe is outside, you're required to connect. But that's more of a council issue to mandate that on the council end, that if you're going to.
I see.
What's that? What's a council issue? Mandating that you have to connect?
For sewer hookup, and we've talked about this in the MUA meeting a couple.
I think I disagree. I think the idea of creating an MUA, a utility authority, was to provide insulation between the council and the MUA, so that when people were told, I'm sorry, you have to hook up, that it doesn't become a political issue. It's simply a matter of what the MUA needs in order to function. I guess what we did at that time was, put you on the burner and not the council.
I understand.
It's not fun.
I think I maybe not have phrased that correctly. So the MUA has in their rules and regulations that it's mandated to hook up.
Okay.
If you have the ability to hook up and you're in the sewer service area. The MUA doesn't have like an enforcement arm the way a township does.
I see. Okay. All right.
He's a big guy though.
He is. I got a feeling that, I've got a feeling.
The MUA's enforcement then is to bill. So if they don't hook up and they don't connect and they don't pay connection fees,
Go
they're
that way.
still billed
Build
and they're required to bill.
and if you're not, you're lean.
Yes, and if you don't pay the bills, then you're put up for liens.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's our enforcement arm, but beyond that, there's,
Thank you.
that we can do.
You, Mr. Fury, you're moving around? Or do you have something to add to this?
To back up with Brian, Brian's, they have two connection fees, one to the township, right?
And one to the
And one
county.
to-
One to the county, but we have no control over the county.
Right. That, I knew that. Yes, I knew that part.
Correct.
So we could, meaning the MUA could offer the discount, however you arrange one, but we still have no control over the SCUMA
Correct,
connection.
correct.
Is the connection fee just a connection or is it yearly?
So the connection fee is the connection fee, and then there's,
You have sewer service.
And then you have
charge.
sewer, then it's, yeah, okay, because I thought it,
It's the usage fee then.
yeah, then the usage fee is per year. So the connection fee is a one-time fee.
Does the county still hold 60% of their collection?
yes. Wait, no. The
Six,
county,
of their connection fee, they still hold 60% of.
we get 60% back in the rate stabilization fund. So the way it works is, someone pays a connection fee, SCUMA takes 60% of that connection fee just for Vernon, and they put it aside in a rate stabilization fund. We can use those funds and draw down from those funds to offset our budget.
Who collects the
That to
interest
happen.
on that money that they're holding?
I'm sorry?
Do they collect interest on the money they're holding?
I'm sure that their controller is in control of that and manages their money. I would assume that
So it's our money, but they're holding it.
it's the ratepayers' connection fees. and they are holding it.
Okay.
Thank you.
With the comments that I've heard regarding the expansion of the sewer service area, I think that's the most critical thing that you can focus on. And for the fact that for 6 years, this study, which caused a lot of dissension on this council when it was suspended and then replaced, was not followed up on. I don't know what happened to it. We weren't supposed to do the study. It became the responsibility of the MUA at the time.
Now, since I came on, it was only, they only spoke of the sewer service.
I understand.
Not the 94 corridors specifically.
Right, I understand. The reason why the 94 corridor was identified was because there seemed to be a significant amount of potential users.
Yep.
And at the time, we were looking for significant
Makes sense.
use. And, there are,
Getting them connected was the
yeah, right.
situation.
And there are,
Down past the tracks,
right.
I'm sorry, and go down and make the left.
Right.
So my question again now is, with regard to the 94 corridor and your other attention to other sewer service area possibilities, where do you stand in terms of some type of a timeline that you're either going to hear from the NJD, DEP, or you're going to have to make application or what? I mean, because are we going to be treading water? In 6 months, I'm going to be asking for the MUA to come back and kind of update us. We didn't do it before, but I think it's critical that we have the community have an update as to what's happening. And I would hope that we'd be a little bit further along than, saying we're just talking about it. Have you employed the offices of our representatives? See if we can get some movement in that area.
Yes, we did.
Mike?
Yeah, we did. We met with the DEP with the commissioners, Sean Latoret and Steve Oraho.
Okay.
So I was on the call and it was specifically about, completing the sewer service area and to try to break down all the obstacles that we had in front of us.
Right.
So a considerable amount of time was placed on this, and this was high on.
That was quite a while ago, I believe, right?
Yeah, that was about, I would say about a year ago. And, it's difficult. I deal with the DEP all the time. Sometimes it's difficult to get them to make a decision. I do know, one of the things outside of DEP, and you might be able to speak to it, there was other things done to speed up the process in order to get the sewer service area approval.
The state designated planning area.
State designated planning area. If you could just, if you could mention what that is about.
Right, so the township last year did the state designated planning area. That was a long process that Jessica Caldwell worked on. And essentially, so what happened before, and I think the issues before with the sewer service area is that we didn't have a designated planning area. We didn't have a Highland Center designated by the state and approved by the state. So it allowed the DEP, in accordance to their regulations and rules, it allowed them to pick apart the existing sewer service area. So even though we were asking for expanded areas and not addressing any of the issues that were already approved, because we didn't have an approved town center, they were able to go in and nitpick every existing approved area. And they said, okay, well, we want this removed and we want this lot removed. And the concerns that the MUA had at the time were that you're removing structures that already exist, that already have the ability to connect.
Yeah, right.
Or properties that already have the ability to connect, and maybe they don't have development on it yet. But if the township grows and we see growth in town center, you're going to limit that one lot. And MUA,
Revenue, yeah.
that was a constant back and forth with that was basically for the last year. We kind of took a hiatus on the sewer service area while the township worked on their state designated planning area, because it's the MUA's stance that now that we have a state designated planning area, that the DEP cannot nitpick our existing sewer service area.
Okay.
I say that it's the MUA's stance.
It's
It
our
doesn't
stance.
necessarily.
We don't know.
that That's how the DEP is going to see it.
Hear you, yeah.
We now are in a point, now that we have everything approved, it's gone through the boards and everything and approved at the state level, we can move forward with the DEP and say, okay, here's our updated mapping. And these are the areas that we want. Can't nitpick the rest.
Okay. Would you assure me that you look into this Route 94 corridor study? and
Definitely, yeah.
find out what's going on with it?
Yes, I wrote it down because it's the first time I've heard about that. So I will look into it and see kind of what was done, what happened there.
Shockingly, it became a political thing. But would know that.
Cannot believe that.
That's what happened, but we would like to see some movement on, at least some direction.
Absolutely.
And, I think that would help everybody, information is golden when you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being so
Harry,
prepared and taking the time to
Thank
come
you
and.
for
Actually, Mike and Harry have a
information that you.
Mike,
I just had one point that I wanted to make. I wanted to ask, it wasn't in the report, but the MUA's net position was improved dramatically over the last couple of years.
Yes.
And can you, I know what it was, but can you give us a rough idea of where we were and then where we are now in a more positive direction?
Right. So when I came on, I believe the net position was extremely low. Not on the MUA when I came into town, because I'm the CFO for the MUA as well. We've worked to really not only cut our budget, but make our budget appropriate, to really go through and be really conservative in our budgeting, conservative in our purchasing. So while we've slashed some of our budget, I think the purchasing and being conservative in that money and spending what needs to be spent, reevaluating our shared services with the township, hiring our own employees so that we don't have to deal with medical contributions or pension contributions and portions of that. That has helped the MUA a lot in their budgeting. So right now, at the end of this year, and this is not an audited number, but our net position will be over $700,000. And the important part of that is that we do have those large bills coming due. If we didn't have that existing net position, that could seriously hurt us in the future when those large bills come due. We have the ability to then use those funds to hopefully offset the rates if necessary.
Thanks.
Just as a kind of speed things up, on the bond issue, the pump house too, so that I'm clear. The amount of money that's going to be used for the construction of the pump house is being fronted, so to speak, by the township, but guaranteed by Mountain Creek via a letter of credit
So yes.
and or I'm sorry, I just slipped. Huh? Lien, thank you. I said it before, couldn't think of it again. Thank you.
Yes, so similar to, Mr. Hession spoke about it earlier, but the 2019 agreement is very clear in there on what the obligations are of Mountain Creek, right? So Mountain Creek pays out of their 7% municipal fee. They pay an existing bond. So there's already an existing bond. We call them the 2008 sewer bonds. We refunded those last year. So it was similar to the situation that the town is in right now in the Pump Station 2 bond ordinance, where the township passed a sewer ordinance or a sewer bond ordinance, I believe in 2000 for sewer construction, and Mountain Creek agreed to pay that amount. That continues through the 2019 settlement agreement. Right now, Mountain Creek pays the township directly for that bond portion. They also pay obligations to the MUA. That's a whole separate area where they pay 66% or 67%.
Right.
And then this would be an additional fee on top of the existing bonds and debt service.
Okay. I have one thing I want to bring up. I know the hour is getting, I promise, board, council members, but I had heard that Mr. Shortway brought up a proposal, which to me sounded rather unique. And maybe this is not the time to mention it, but I just want to mention it, just to hear your thoughts. We can always schedule some hearings on it later on. But the idea of utilizing an existing septic, pumping facilities, companies, and dedicating the amount of flow, effluent from those companies into the system to credit our required needs. I heard about it and then it fell down. It drifted away, fell through the cracks. it sounded to me like a very, very good idea. Mr. Shortway and I don't agree on many things, but certainly I think there's a possibility that there's something that we can do there. My son lives in Virginia, and the county sends him a postcard every year to switch from Field A to Field B and Field B to Field A. So there is an involvement. Where counties do get involved in something like this. And certainly having a town resident be required to pump their tanks over a period of time, whether it be every 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, houses of 2, 6 years, or however, those are the mundane items that can be, looked at later on. But I think the concept is intriguing to me because we're looking for a way to bolster our output, so to speak, and get credit for. Maybe there's a way of also determining some type of financial benefit by using a town-approved system versus, just going out and calling, A for aardvark on your yellow pages. So is there anything on that? Have you given any thoughts to that?
Yeah, so the MUA has been looking into that.
Okay.
Yep.
That's great to hear.
Great to hear. I don't want to make it go any further now. I can always come and see you individually, certainly maybe in 6 months. Look at 6 months from now is going to be what, September? Consider that an open invitation to come visit us in September. And that'll be one of the questions I think we'd like to talk about, to see where we can go. Always looking for a way to make a few bucks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Reviewing the bills list. We have here, are there any questions on any particular items that we have for our business administrator or mayor?
Oh, yes, no, it's not yet.
Good?
Nothing.
I have nothing.
Nothing?
What is the clock for the snow track thing we had?
Right.
There's a bill on here for a clock for the day that you set the Viking
Or it says timer.
timer. It's a timer. I think it was $840 or something.
Know what check number that is?
What page is that?
Yeah, if you hang on a second.
On the first page,
First page?
290. Or no, 57272.
Yep. The snow timer for the snowshoe event is $846.
Yeah.
What? Is that a one-time use? Is that?
Or do we own the clock now?
I don't know that we own it. I think it was a rental, I believe, but I'd have to check the backup on that.
Yeah, I can provide, if you want, I can provide the backup for that. I have it in the system. So I can scan it to you guys. Just so you know, that's fine.
Yep.
Because everybody's got a timer in their house, so it's kind of like. I want to see how good an $846 timer is.
Can I make an assumption with this? I haven't seen any backup. It's probably the business that comes, talking about normal races. What they usually do, they hire a timer, he comes in, they set it all up. And then your registration fees, pay them back. So I don't know if that's the situation here, but when I see a timer, I don't think they're just buying, making.
Or they have those
You can understand why I would ask.
Yeah, you have a computer chip on your.
computer chip. So was it a sanctioned rate?
All right. I'm good.
No shoe race, so I don't really think it's sanctioned.
Yeah.
It's not like.
It's not like-
Drive, right? You
yeah.
have the people come in and they do the same thing. In all these races, you have a timer and you pay them. So it might be written it, but I don't know. I'm just.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Check number 57342. fleet for Van Deen or Van Dyne Motors for $4,255 change. What, just as a matter of interest, what is that for?
$342.
57342.
May have been for, I don't know for certain, may have been for one of the fire apparatus.
Oh, okay.
Not sure, because I know we've utilized Van Dyne motors for work that can't be performed by the township mechanics. Typically, when we go to an outside vendor, whether it's Campbell or perhaps in this case Van Dyne, it would be something that we're not able to perform. Needs a certification.
Thank you.
Sometimes things need to get fixed too with the fire department when Campbell's not available. And
All members have received copies of the minutes of our executive session of January 24, 2022. May I have a motion to place them on the floor for consideration?
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Fury. Are there any questions or corrections or deletions on this, on these minutes? Not, I'll ask for a motion. I'm sorry, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Sure. Vice President Bucieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Fury?
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch?
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway?
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All members have received copies of the minutes of our regular meeting of January 24, 2022. May I have a motion to place them
I'll
on
make that motion.
for consideration? Moved by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Fury. Any questions, comments, or deletions? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. All members have received copies of the minutes of our special meeting, February 3rd, 2022. May I have a motion to place it on the floor for consideration?
Motion.
Motion made by Mrs. Bucieri. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Lynch. Are there any comments, questions, or deletions or corrections? If not, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Abstain.
You're abstaining.
You're abstaining?
here.
Okay,
Weren't here.
2 abstentions. They weren't here. Mr. Shortway and Mr. Fury. For the executive session of February 14th, 2022. May I have a motion to place these minutes on the floor for consideration?
I'll make a motion.
Moved by Mr. Fury. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. Are there any deletions or questions or comments on those? If not, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Vice President Bucieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Fury?
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch?
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway?
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Number 10, Resolution 2258, resolution to appoint a conflict attorney, which was placed on the table. It's now being picked up off the table. I believe, who made the motion to table?
I made the motion to
made the
table.
table?
Yep.
You have your motion to pick it up off the table?
No,
No?
I,
You
I,
want him-
I think we should leave it tabled.
Okay,
Is that the proper procedure?
certainly
Josh?
is. Yes,
That is.
it is. Is there a second to your,
I'll second that.
seconded by Mr. Lynch? You have a roll call vote, please.
Sure. Vice President Bucieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Fury?
I'm voting to table it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Councilmember Fury?
Yes.
Lynch?
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway?
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Consent agenda. Anybody having an issue with any of the particular items, please let me know. and We'll separate it. Resolution 22-65, emergency temporary appropriation. Resolution 22-56, authorizing cancellation of current fund reserves expenses. 22 67, refund of overpayments, Block 79, Lot 10, Kenneth Bauer. Resolution 2268, refund overpayments, Block 542, Lot 12, Carl Ludwig. Resolution 22 69, refund overpayment, various block and lots, CoreLogic. Resolution 22 70, refund overpayment, Block 484, Lot 58, CoreLogic.
Can we have I know Kristen's not here. I don't know if Danelle might be able to, there's always some questions about these overpayments. So maybe just a quick explanation, which I think Kristen gave last time too, but maybe just a reminder. That's okay.
Can you
Okay with
help us
that?
out in this?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Sorry to put you in the spot.
Okay, so these are tax overpayments. So essentially what can happen here, and what most of the time happens, is that if somebody has their mortgage paying taxes, their mortgage, in this case, like you have CoreLogic. CoreLogic handles a lot of properties. They just are the tax people. What happens is someone will pay their taxes, but if somebody buys that house, they have to pay it in their closing, and it just turns out that there's an overpayment of the taxes. Those taxes are then refunded back to whoever made that payment.
So these are not in regards to an assessment error.
Nothing to do with assessments.
Okay, so, yeah, and they're, I mean, if you look at them, except for the one, they're all like $800 bucks. Okay. All right, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Are there any other questions? I have one. What is the appropriation? Explain the temporary emergency appropriation.
Okay, so for a temporary budget, the township is only permitted 26.25% of their prior year's budget. So what happens is with increasing costs, sometimes the pension, because the pension this is the full annual payment. This is not like a portion of it. Pension payments far exceed that 26.25% that we're allowed to do. So most towns will do something similar like this, where we're allowed to do emergency temporary appropriations, and then they have to be accounted for in the annual budget.
Okay.
So you'll see these are the exact numbers that are in the annual budget then, these lines, and they're due tomorrow.
So you couldn't figure it, you couldn't figure it into your temporary budget
Would
early.
not fit in the temporary budget.
Thank you. So any other questions? If not, can we have a roll call vote, please? I'm sorry, may I have do we have?
A motion. Yeah, I think we had a motion.
We have a motion on the floor. May I
Right?
have a roll call vote?
No,
please?
we didn't have a motion. Okay, I'll make a motion. Sorry.
Motion made by Mrs. Bucieri. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Fury. I don't know how we got into discussion before we
Sorry,
put
I
it
think I
on.
jumped. That was my
Oh, that's
fault.
okay. I'll forgive you this time. Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Vice President Bucieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Fury?
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch?
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway?
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto?
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Introduction of reading of proposed ordinances. First reading. Ordinance 22 06, capital ordinance providing for various improvements by the Township of Vernon in the County of Sussex, New Jersey, appropriating therefore the sum of $20,000 and providing that such sum so appropriated shall be raised from the capital improvement fund of the township. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Fury. Are we allowed to ask what's it for? Do we have to wait a whole nother month, 2 weeks?
So you can ask what it's
Yeah,
for.
yeah. Otherwise, I was gonna, die in anticipation.
Yeah, absolutely can ask.
What's it for?
Please. What is this ordinance for?
The 20,000. What is it being used for?
It's for across the street for the fuel tanks. It's for inputting the Chuck, what are those things called?
We had,
Pumps,
Not my,
um,
no, but
the pumps in the tanks.
had to add additional concrete for pillars in order to eventually put a canopy over the top of it
Oh, for our own fuel tanks.
for our own fuel tanks, because Baldwin will be out of business in approximately 30 to 45 days.
Okay.
That's how quick it's happening? Oh, boy.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for reminding me.
yeah.
Motion is on the floor. May I have a roll call vote?
Vice President Bucieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Fury?
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch.
Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. Ordinance 2205. This is a second reading, bond ordinance providing for the improvements of the sanitary sewage system, Sand Hill Pump Station in and by the Township of Vernon in the County of Sussex, New Jersey, appropriating $2.4 million, therefore authorizing the issuance of $2.4 million, $2,400,000 bonds or notes of the township for financing such appropriation. May I have a motion to place this on the
I'll
floor?
make that motion.
Moved by Mr. Lynch. Is there a
Second it.
second?
I'll second it.
And by Mr. Fury. Before we move on this, do we have any comments from the public? Can we open up the floor for public comment on this?
I'll make a motion to open up the floor to the public.
I'll second that.
Moved by Mr. Shortway, seconded by Mr. Lynch. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. The floor is open to the public on this particular issue only. If you have any questions or comments regarding this bond, I kind of digressed a little bit earlier in terms of what would support it and how the township was protected. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Mr. Shortway recently posted something, kind of a background of how we got to where we are with this. I can attest to the validity of it. I know that he inherited a real mess when he became the mayor. I know our previous mayor, Mr. Murata, and Andy Mulvihill had an agreement where Mountain Creek was going to pay to replace this. It seems like kind of got sidetracked and never happened. It was extended after 2013. At some point, Mr. Shortway became the mayor and later was the president of the council. I don't know what action was taken during that period of time, but I was kind of troubled to hear Mr. Hessian say that in 2020, they paid $856,349. In 2021, $763,852, $352. And in 2022, $745,51. $2.3 million right there. My understanding is, according to what was written by Mr. Shortway, was that the agreement was the 7%, which was to be applied to the pump station. I would ask if there was discussion about the 1.75. I don't know if there was really an accounting given, but my goodness, we're talking about a lot of money here. 1.75 and 2.3, and now Mr. Hessian also references a 1.387 million. Just what's this pump station going to cost? And why do we need a 2.4 million bond if Mr. Hessian has already paid the township 2.3 million? Is the 7% dedicated to the sewer, or is it for whatever the township decides they want to use this money for? We're talking about a lot of money. I don't know what the pump station costs. I don't think anybody's ever thrown that number out. We don't have bids yet, but somebody must have some idea, maybe the township engineer, some idea of what this is going to cost us. And now we're talking about 2, 3, 5, and now another 2.4. We're over $5 million here. I hope somebody can answer these questions because it just seems like we're kind of loose with the funds. I don't want to read everything that was written by Mr. Shortway, but he talks about the 13-202, which was approved by a previous council, which obligated us to a lot more flow that we maybe didn't need. I think it was a set aside from Mountain Creek with their big plans. I know that we went from Andy Mulvihill to Interwest, back to Andy Mulvihill. I believe the Kaufman's at one point. Now, I don't know who the ownership is. I know Joe's the president. I don't think he's the owner. He was a snowboard instructor with my son. My son didn't have that kind of money to be buying Mountain Creek, so I'm not sure he did. But I really wish we could get some answers to this. I know it's a public hearing. I know it's for comments. But I wish somebody could explain what all this money is going to, what this is actually going to cost us. And why, if Mountain Creek has already paid over $2 million and have another 1.3 million slated to pay, why do we need a 2.4 million bond? And I hope somebody will answer that question tonight. Thank you.
Okay.
Before I end, if you would please be so kind as to clarify, is that 7% for the MUA or is it for other things as well? Because I've heard people saying some of it's going to the biking, to the biking walking trail. So if that could be clarified, I'd appreciate it.
Mr. Dunlap, are you referring to the 7% Vernon municipal fee that is being charged by Mountain Creek?
Excuse me?
Is that, what is this? You said 7%. What specifically are you referring to?
My understanding is that Mountain Creek is collecting 7% of all their sales, which they're giving to the township for the MUA. If that's not right, then I think that should be clarified.
That's not correct.
Mr. Hessian, you're here. Perhaps you might want to clarify this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again, Joe Hessian, CEO, Snow Partner. So first, to address, to respond to Mr. Dunlap and Mr. Clark, and just to make sure, well, like this is part of a federal record because we reorganized the company. Like we came to it after it was bankruptcy. I own a majority interest in Mountain Creek and have full control of Mountain Creek Resort. I'm not associated with anyone from Crystal Springs or the Mobile family in any way, shape, or form. I do not answer to anyone from a business perspective. I answer to my mission statement, which is to enhance the lives of our team, guests, and partners by building lasting connections. I consider the Township of Vernon a really strong partner. The Kaufmans are a partner in Mountain Creek, a minority partner. They do not have control of the business. And if anyone needs any history on this, when we reorganized, the benefit of buying a company essentially out of bankruptcy is this is public federal records. You can look this up and you can see that what I'm saying is 100% accurate. I also don't want to go over my time. I apologize for that earlier. When it comes to the 7%, every time, and I'll have our chief legal counsel come up to address this too in more detail if I don't go deep enough. But every time someone buys a ticket to the resort, an admissions ticket, we charge 7%. So if you buy a ticket for $10, which
yeah, right.
We wish.
$100. No, that's more.
Real number.
So $100, 7% of that, which would be $7, goes into the muni fee account. The muni fee account, we grow that every month. At the end of the month, we reconcile the muni fee account and we put it into a separate account. We then share that with the town throughout the year of what our balance is. I mentioned our balance earlier was 1.3. That's what we currently have in that account. Some things just for clarification. The money, the muni fee money, is Mountain Creek's money held in our account. And then we have very specific rules as per the 2019 agreement, which it's worth bringing up. All of this stuff and all of the troubled history, I hate it more than anybody because everyone always tells me how much they hate it. I'm the dumb that pays for it. So I don't like it either because it's really expensive. I have to charge my customers. And as far as like if Mountain Creek defaults, let's say I mentioned I have full control of the business. Let's say I did for some reason not be able to succeed and I failed. There's an ordinance in the town that no matter who the operator is in perpetuity covered with the land, they have to collect it. So the town is very well protected here. 7% fee, then we get a bill at the end of the year, and Danelle could probably go through in the best example from MUA of what it is we're paying for. Part of it is some of the past bond payments, some of this other stuff. So Mr. Dunlap, good question you have of if I have 1.3 sitting in the bank now, why can't we just use that to fix the pump house? That's a good question. Okay. Well, I'll answer that question because I like that question. So it wasn't his question, but the question is, why couldn't we use that money? Because the way it works is we've agreed in the 2018 agreement to collect the muni fee. And then when we get the bill for the things that we've agreed to pay for, we remit it. Part of that agreement is we've agreed to pay for the bond for Pump House 2 once that bond is received. And the estimate we had was somewhere between 6,000 and 9,000 per month, which is in the 2019 agreement. In the 2019 agreement, it does not state that we have to front the money cash ourselves, because the way the muni fee, it wouldn't really work out that way. But the town would go and get a low interest loan, and in this case, a bond, which you guys are able to do or not. You'd fix the pump house, which is owned by the town, which, again, to one of the questions earlier, they said it only does Red Tail Lodge and Appalachian. It's just unfortunately not true. It's a good story, but not true. Everything that flows north of the pump house too goes to there, right? So that's just the facts of it. But then,
Can you elaborate on that, please?
so everything, so if you look at, so the sewer flows down 94 towards McAfee.
Right.
So everything from Pump House 2, which is located at the entrance of Black Creek Sanctuary on Sand Hill Road.
Right.
Everything from that way up to where we are now in Vernon, and everything that's this way flows to that pipe. There is no, I think earlier was a statement that there was like some pressurized pipe that went around that. That's just not fact. The fact is, if you know, I had an analogy like, does the bear poop in the woods? If it poops in the woods, it does not go in the pipe. If it goes in the Acme, it goes to pump station 2.
Okay.
So bear poops in Acme definitely goes there. Bear poops in Appalachian goes there. So anything north of Pump House 2 in the sewer service area, in the sewer pipe, it goes through Pump House 2. There is no like alternate way.
Okay,
And I think, can I cover that?
certainly.
Just to add to what Joe's stating, when the day lodge was built, which is Red Tail Lodge,
Yeah.
the condition of that approval was to construct the missing link.
Right.
Before that missing link was constructed, there's a section through your property goes up toward the town center. Town center mains were dry, or no sewage was running in that until that missing link was constructed. As a condition of the Red Tail Lodge was to connect that in. So I think that brings in a potential almost 100,000 gallons of sewage can come from the town center, goes basically to your pump station amount at Black Creek, which then that gets pumped down to, the pump station number 2.
That's correct.
So that's the situation. So the comment that was done earlier, you do have your Appalachian, I call it the day lodge. It was originally the Red Tail Lodge. Cobblestone has its own little pump station that pumps it up into that pump station number 2. And you got the town center. So everything that Joe's stating is correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Not they were doubting you, but I just.
No, well, I appreciate the engineer giving us the much more detail than I would have. Is there any other questions for me?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Asher. Okay. Yes, sir.
Good evening, council. Scott Baldessano, CLO of Snow Partners, owner of Mountain Creek. Just to piggyback a little bit on what Mr. Hessian was saying and to give Mr. Dunlap some clarity on the agreement, I can't really provide any information on how the pump house works or where. Not my information on the agreement itself. So this was, I know it has a sordid history, right? To Joe's point, predates us. We came on in 2017 to help operate. 2019, we helped work out the agreement. 2020, we took over majority ownership of Mountain Creek. So during the 2019 agreement that was worked out, that was during the pendency of the federal bankruptcy, public knowledge, probably hundreds of people noticed about the agreement and the information contained in it. To answer specifically, Mr. Dunlap, your question, so the 7% is collected for every admission product that is sold in Mountain Creek. 7% is put into a separate account, Unity account, we call it. And then it's 3 different tranches that 7% Unity is used to pay. Past due obligations that are a fixed amount, that was a period of time where Mountain Creek wasn't paying what was owed. There is the bond obligation that Ms. Bright alluded to for a separate bond. And then there's the budget deficit that fluctuates annually based on what the MUA provides us. So we collect the Muni fee, and we remit the Muni fee once we receive the invoice from the town for the year. So we received it this year in January, this January for the year of 2022. Luckily, we had collected enough in the Muni fee account to pay it in full. We're still collecting, we're still charging, so we're building up that account, which should give the taxpayers a lot of comfort that we're in a good spot to continue to pay these obligations. And the one piece that's missing that is in the agreement is for this pump house itself. So we didn't know the amounts at that point, but in the agreement, based on the 2005 agreement, we didn't make that agreement then, obviously, but we confirmed the obligation that was in that 2005 agreement to pay for the costs of the pump house. So now that the bond is being taken out, we're really here today just to confirm that we are ready, willing, and able to pay and to meet those obligations. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the floor? How about from
Yes, I have Tom McLaughlin.
Mr. McClackery? Can you hear me?
Yeah, how you doing? So essentially what Mr. Hessian was saying, and I didn't get the other person's name that was backing up what Mr. Hessian says. I don't think I ever saw either one of them in the year 2000 when I was standing up and talking about this. And pretty much a lot of people, perhaps you people know, I've been talking about sewers and the MUA for the last 20 years, 22 years. And that explanation about the missing 1,000-foot and the deal that was cut between I believe it was the Carew administration at that time, and Mr. Mulvihill to complete that was the guarantee that the pipe from town center would go to that pump station. Because I'll say it again, and I know Mr. Hoop, and I apologize, I didn't get his name. I know he has some knowledge of sewers. Well, hey, I also have 35 years of knowledge of sewers too. And I'm telling you straight up, that force main could have gone from the town center straight to the Sussex County pump station. It did not have to be interconnected with the pump station at Sand Hill. Anybody that tells you different has better go back and take some basic engineering courses. As to what Sand Hill pump station would service, if it was not connected to the town center, it does service just the Appalachian, that pseudo red tail railroad station deal, and the Black Creek condos on Black Creek. That's what it services. Any other sewer company, any other MUA would require the developer to pay for it. Sounds like Mr. Hessian's going to pay for it, but to be honest with you, after 20 years of promises from Intrawest, and actually it's just Intrawest, and before that it was Mr. Mulvihill. So we'll go back 35, 40 years, 5 or 6 bankruptcies. Basically, no, I'm not buying what they're selling anymore. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have Peg DeStassi.
Mr. Stassi?
Good evening. So if I'm understanding Joe Hesson correctly, the ordinance 1901, which says that Mountain Creek will withhold 7%, will charge the 7% recreational fee to satisfy all sewer agreement obligations until they are fully paid. They have the right to withhold that money from Vernon and use it in their own budget during the year, and we're out the money and we're paying for a bond.
No, I think you may have misunderstood the explanation.
Okay.
Perhaps, Mr. Hessian, you might want to re-explain that. I had attempt myself, but I don't want to.
Yes, thank you for the question. So we collect the money, like, for example, today, we collected funds with our spring pass. I mentioned earlier, it was around $20,000 in the muni fee. At the end of the month, we reconcile that, then we move that money to a separate account, which is called the muni fee account. And that account, we do not touch, we're not allowed to touch. We leave it in that account until we get the bill. And what's supposed to happen, we've almost been too successful with it. What's supposed to happen is every quarter, you get the bill and then you pay it. But now what happens is when we get the bill for the year in January, we just pay the whole year up front. Because it's the way we have to deplete the whole account. So last year, we paid the whole bill in full, but we still had $500-something thousand left. So that money is sitting in our bank account. We can't use it for anything at all. It just sits in an account waiting for the next bill to come from the town and continues to build back up. And then once we get the bill, we then remit.
So my question is, why can't you remit your excess? Why, in the meantime, we're carrying the freight. So even though you have excess, why can't you remit it to Vernon? Why do you hold it until a whole year? You know, granted, it's great that you can pay it in January.
Mr. Stassi, I
Go
think
ahead.
what you need to look at this is as a payment schedule. You know, there's no reason to pay it all off ahead of time because we have a covered payment schedule.
But we have
Covered in
other
the se-
debts. We have other debts that are also being covered by this.
I can add real quick.
Go ahead.
So just one point of clarification, the muni fee money is the town's money. Once you give me a bill that we've agreed to the amount I'm supposed to pay and I remit it. Prior to that, it's my money. And I'm putting it in an account that I can't use to protect you because that's the way we've organized it. But by no means, the way I hear you speaking of this is if it's some sort of extra tax, like I'm already the largest taxpayer in town. We already agreed to do all these things because of previous really bad deals that we've helped try to clean up. But by no means would we front payments that we don't owe. That would be like you paying taxes for next year, the year after, the year after. That just wouldn't make sense for you, wouldn't make sense for us. Just to make sure we're super full disclosure, in the agreement as well, if there's ever a period where we've collected the fee, because remember, the muni fee is a fee that we collect to our customers, and it is our fee. It's the same as a resort fee. It's not a tax, it's a resort fee that we've called muni fee. If in any year, we have double the amount of money, and I just want to say this to make sure we're super transparent. If we ever have double the amount of money than the year prior, then the excess money flows back to us. So earlier when I said we can never touch it, that's slightly untrue. If we ever have double last year's bill in excess, the rest of that money flows back to us as a business.
Okay.
Understood. But my question is that we have huge debts that are coming due next year from a lot of it from Mountain Creek. So why can't you be advancing that money to help us reduce that?
But what debts, I don't understand the debts that I have coming due that you believe I owe. Every debt that Mountain Creek has owed in the past, every debt that we've agreed to pay for, I've honored 100%. Listen, I'd love to say that I can, make better decisions for the people that were here before us,
Well, I'm talking about before.
I didn't own the Playboy Club, Great Gorge, or Vernon Valley, or Action Park. I was born in 1980.
Oh, boy.
No, I understand that, Mr.
And I
Hession,
bought
but
Mountain Creek in March of 2020. So since
Yeah,
then, I will
part of
continue to do
this
what I
money
need to
was,
do.
Thank you, Mr. Stassi. Thank you
okay,
very much. Is there anybody else?
Yeah, I have Sean Clarkin.
Mr. Clarkin?
Just a real quick question.
Sure.
So the 7% to the town is being charged on day passes, triple play passes, and season passes?
Hello, Mr. Pelican. It's all admissions products. So it's charged on water park day tickets, water park seasons passes, mountain bike day tickets, mountain bike seasons passes, triple play seasons passes, value passes, school group programs, anything that requires an admission to the property, you pay that 7% fee. Where you do not pay the fee, it's almost easier to say it that way, is you don't do it when you buy retail items, food and beverage, lodging, guests of weddings are specifically carved out. We don't want to like charge the bride 7% for every person she invites to their wedding. Those things are not included, but yeah, so mountain biking, water park, every pass you just said, we charge it. We also charge it on other products too, like private lessons, which we're not obligated to do, but it's in our best interest to always make sure that that number is as high as it can be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Anybody else?
Yes, let's see. Jessica Palladini.
Ms. Palladini?
Hi, Peg's question might have answered it, but I'm just a little bit confused, and if you could clarify better. So Vernon taxpayers are paying for the replacement of this pump station, and Mountain Creek is reimbursing us. So far, correct?
I look at it the other way. I think we're just fronting the money. And now, we're probably a month behind on everything.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Yeah, it's a bond. It's a bond that's secured by a letter of credit, probably payable at site, and a lien placed on the property. So, I mean, yes.
What I don't get is this being repaid with the 7%?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so if it's being repaid with the 7%, they have to give us that 7% anyway. So how are they repaying us for the money we're putting?
What do you mean? It was, as I understand it now, the bond, I'm sorry, the repayment schedule was worked out in 2019. And that that money was put in a special account as it was taken from the accounts at Mountain Creek. And it was put in basically a sinking fund account. And it's held there until a bill is received, and then the bill is paid out of that account.
I understand that, Mr. Rizzuto. What I'm trying to say is that, let's say you owe me $100 and you're going to make of $10 a month for 10 months, but then I give you $1,000 to get a new engine for your car. Is that $10 a month you're paying me going toward that engine? Or are they going to be paying separately? In other words, they are already part of the agreement.
Not gonna answer it.
Give us 7%.
I think they're not gonna answer it. No.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, Ms. Palladini. This is Joe Hessian again. So one thing I just want to go back to the beginning is we don't own the pump house. Pump house 2, we don't own.
Believe me, I'm a recording secretary.
You have to realize that we've agreed to pay for it because of a bad situation in 2015 or 2005, 12, all this. So when we're saying, like, when people say we're fronting the money, you're getting a bond for yourself to fix your pump house, and I'm paying for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
So I think everyone should say,
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
at the end of the day is the conversation keeps going towards you're fronting us the money or this and that, or the question is, why are we doing this for Mountain Creek? You're not. I understand there's a really complicated past, and I wish that wasn't the case. Trust me, like I said earlier, I'm the guy who's charging our customers all this money to pay back to get this right. But at the end of the day, just so we're all on the same page, the pump house 2, owned by the town, you guys are taking out a bond. The money is not coming from the taxpayers. It's a bond that's being issued. So no money's coming directly from taxpayers. I'll talk about where the taxpayers could be at some risk here. Are they taking out the bond? which now you have this really strong deal with us that there's no way for me not to collect the 7%. I think at one point there was like personally guaranteed and like any operator could serve jail time if they didn't collect this. Like we made this so ironclad that in the event that I ever sold the resort, the town wouldn't be on the hook. Like we were working because we really believed in what we were trying to fix. In this case, we agreed to pay for a pump house that isn't ours. So the town is taking out a bond for their own pump house. And due to the agreement that we made in 2019, we agree to pay for that monthly once the bond has been accepted and then the pump house work has been done. So I agree to pay for it. I will honor every obligation. And many years from now, we're gonna look back and say, remember those old names? We don't even know who Hefner was. We don't even know who that guy was. We don't even know who those people were. So thank you again, Ms. Palladini, for the question.
Thank you, Mr. Hesh.
Wait, well, I'm not done. I'm not quite
Well,
done.
I,
Not quite done. All my time. So I understand that, Joe, and thank you. And I do believe you are honorable in what you're doing. And having been the recording secretary for the MUA for 8 years, believe me, I know how painstakingly was the investigation to figure out who owns the pump station. And I know we do own the pump station. I guess your explanation makes it more palatable. Before that, it was a little bit confusing to me. So
thank you very much,
for explaining.
Mr. Palladini.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
No, I have no other hands.
Hearing anybody from the floor?
My question wasn't answered. My question simply was, is this the 7% for the sewer and the bond, previous bond related to the sewer? Or is it just for general fund that the township can use for anything? My understanding was incorrect. I wish you would explain.
Okay.
I think
Why don't we have our attorney answer?
I think I can answer that question for you, Mr. Dunlap. The 7%, when Mountain Creek went into bankruptcy, they sought to discharge several obligations. They were on the hook for sewer bonds issued by SCUMA, issued by Vernon Township. They also had stopped paying certain obligations. In addition, there was an agreement to rebuild the pump station. If you look at the settlement agreement, there are 4 categories of debt that Mountain Creek agreed to pay through the collection of the 7% amount. One of those categories is the pump station. That money, to Joe Hession's point, is held in trust for the town's benefit. In addition, that 7% also goes to pay the past due bond amounts that Mountain Creek tried to discharge and not pay. Related to the sewer pipes that are in the ground. Every quarter, Donnell sends them a bill that has their debt obligations. They pay that bill. And as Joe stated earlier, they've been paying it earlier. The agreement also has mechanisms in place for them to create surplus funds equal to double the obligations that are owed. There's also lien rights, a letter of credit. The letter of credit is a limited letter of credit in the amount of $250,000. There are lien rights that the town has. When the fee was put in place, it is an ordinance, and anyone who operates any recreational activity for perpetuity on that mountain has to pay this fee forever. So it's intended to make the town as whole as possible on these debt obligations as well as the pump house obligation.
What's number 3 and 4?
So I'll just read to you in the agreement, and you can get this agreement online in the bankruptcy. So there's the budget deficit obligations, which is the 63% that Mountain Creek agreed to pay in the second agreement. The second category is the past due sewer obligations that Mountain Creek stopped paying. And then there are Vernon bond obligations that Mountain Creek was also obligated to pay. Those are the 3 bond debt obligations. The fourth category is the pump house. And they're collectively referred to in the agreement as the sewer agreement obligations.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Right, I do have one more hand up.
All right,
Christine Dunn.
Ms. Dunn?
Hi,
Hi.
I just wanted to mention something. The council president said when we were talking to the MUA about how like should have been maybe doing more during this time, to make money, how this could be a money maker. And it's funny that you guys talked about, I heard 2 times you mentioning it and 1 time today, hearing about how they should be using the pump station to like do this, pumping out septic systems. And that is like a brilliant idea. I mean, I don't know why they haven't been doing this and you guys said that they would talk about this, but I think that should be done sooner than later. I mean, maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation about this if they had been doing this all along. It's a way to make money. It's good for the environment. It's something positive.
Yep.
If something like this had been going on in Vernon, I've been doing it years ago. I mean, so I appreciate Mr. Hessian doing what he's doing, and I understand all these people having that issue with what has been going on in the past about Mountain Creek. But it seems like Joe is trying to make it right. And we're always talking about what we're going to do for businesses in Vernon and businesses in Vernon. And, I wasn't sure about this whole idea, but I appreciate what Joe is doing. And I thank him for being a good business owner in Vernon, because that's what we've been talking about with the past council meetings. So it's just something I wanted to bring to everybody's attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? No?
No, I have no other hand.
Seeing nobody, no further questions from the floor. Ask for a
Move to close public
I'm
comments.
sorry. I have Ann Larson.
Okay, Mrs. Larson.
Ann Larson?
Thank you. Yes, I appreciate that. Just a couple things I wanted to mention. Thank you, Mr. Hessian, for giving us that explanation. But as bad a deal as you think you got, 90% of the town got a way worse deal because we're all maintaining our own septics and covering the bond for this expenditure and a pump station and everything else. So it sounds bad for you. It's infinitely worse for the rest of the taxpayers. So I wanted to point that out. One other thing, thank you for pointing out the bills. When you were going over the bills earlier, I noticed when Mr. Lynch, can you hear me?
Yes.
We're not talking about
Oh,
that.
okay,
now.
somebody was talking. So I noticed that Mr.
Oh, excuse me, this is only limited to.
Gotcha. Okay, fine. That was final comment. Gotcha. All good. Sorry.
Thank you.
There'll be another public comment session.
Okay, doke. Thank you.
I just get inured.
No, I
Thank you.
have no other hands.
Hearing no further questions.
I move that we close public comments on this ordinance.
Moved by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Fury. All in favor of closing the floor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay.
Move to call the roll.
Second.
Second by Mr. Fury. Motion made by Mr. Lynch. Roll call vote.
Sherry,
Yes.
Councilmember Fury,
Yes.
Councilmember Lynch,
Because Mr. Hessian is a good neighbor and he was born in 1980, I feel so old saying that. Yes.
Councilmember Shortway,
Yes.
Council President Rizzuto.
Yes,
Motion carries.
and I think Mr. Hessian was a classmate of my son.
Graduated high school in 78. He was born in.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thought he said graduated in the.
He was born in.
All right, just missed the time, missed the time. Thank you, thank you.
Boy,
Good baby.
I move to open the floor to public comment.
Second.
You want to run the meeting?
I want to get out of here. That's all. It was a joke, Pat. Nice and easy, all right?
I have a motion to open the floor for comment. Moved by Mr. Lynch. Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
Seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. All in favor?
Aye.
By saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Floor is open to the public for comment on any issue. Please come to the podium. Give us your name and. You and me.
Right.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Craig Meback, Barry Lakes. My comments tonight are focused around the mayor's public message in last week's advertising. For some perspective as to how truly troubled I am, I'll give you some background on myself. I've been a tax-paying resident of the township for 39 years. I do follow what takes place in town, and yet this is only the third time I felt the need to address either the mayor or the council. I have been so compelled to address the mayor or the council based on what he said. And I would like to say that I am not a Facebook warrior. I stand before you to talk about what I have to say. Mr. Mayor, I'm disappointed in your view that the council is presented in your public message. These comments are not only unprofessional, but are comments I would never expect to see a mayor state in a newspaper regarding council members of the town he is elected to represent. I think they're deplorable. It seems you have everyone believe that there is a personal vendetta against you. As a resident and a taxpayer who cares about the town, what I see here is not a vendetta by one council member, and I don't see it as any way being personal. It is, however, 3 newly elected council members, 3 of them, exercising due diligence in vetting a project that will cost taxpayers approximately $1.5 million by its completion. I applaud their actions and trust they will not be swayed by your rhetoric. Thank you. The project you referred to takes town center property off tax rolls, will serve to increase insurance and operating costs for the town, all at a time when taxpayers are finding it increasingly difficult to heat their homes and feed their families. You mentioned several times this project was approved by previous councils. I would like to draw your attention back to November, when all council seats up for re-election turned over by margins so large they could only be considered a rout. Previous council members who were routed out came in 4th and below, fully 1,000 votes behind the 3rd place seat. Clearly, the taxpayers are not as happy with your agenda as you are. In spite of this, you did not stop to take pause and evaluate the message the voters are sending. Instead, you have gone ahead and purchased property. And let me tell you, I heard your comments earlier, and based on experience, if you purchased the property without a negative declaration from the DEP, which I doubt you have since they're still testing wells and will be till 2029, you have put the township in a position of potential exposure for environmental issues. Also, you state repeatedly this project will bring business to the town. I would like to know what evidence you have on what types of businesses and how much business hiking trails and a bump park is going to bring to Vernon. Will it help? How much will it help control taxes or even cover the costs associated with its maintenance and insurance? Lastly, I would like to state that Vernon needs business ratables, not a project that takes property away from the town center. This is not the type of project that the town center was created for. Mayor and Council, I thank you for your time, and Council, please continue the good work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else? Any other comments from the floor? If not, do we have any comments?
Yes, I have Sean Clarkin.
Okay, I wholeheartedly agree with every syllable that gentleman just said. All right, the 3 new council members were voted in by the citizens of Vernon because they were so unhappy with the previous town council. The fact that the mayor is not willing to recognize that, and he has 22 months left in office, is very detrimental to the future of Vernon. And if the mayor can't get with the program, he's really got to step out of the way. There's an issue that hasn't been discussed yet tonight, and if it can't be discussed, we need to do it at some future time. There was an ordinance for vacant properties, and I spoke about it a year ago, January or February, and now here it is a year later. And the point that I brought out 24 months ago 12 months ago, was that the ordinance was meant to be applied to banks and mortgage companies holding vacant properties. And when I pointed that out 12 months ago, the town attorney agreed with my statement. But he opted and encouraged the town council at the time to continue the practice because it was generating revenue. I have a serious problem having an attorney working for the town who's willing to charge citizens for misapplied laws. The vacant property law was not ever intended to be applied against individuals of a town. It was meant to be applied against banks and mortgage companies who held vacant properties in disarray, not private citizens of a town. The town attorney on record in the recording from January 21 or February 21 said that, why should we stop? Nobody has sued us yet. So his justification for continuing an illegal practice was because no town resident sued the town over it yet. And this attorney is still working for us. I'm a taxpayer and I don't want that guy working for me anymore. Okay? I can't trust a word he says. At the time, in January or February of 2021, he wasn't working for the town. He was working for Harry Shortway's agenda. And he put what's important to Harry Shortway ahead of what was good for the citizens. And he allowed the town council to continue practicing something that he admitted in the recording was being misapplied and illegal. And to add to the problem, the 5 council members at the time and the mayor didn't say boo about it. They just sat there quietly and accepted this crooked attorney's explanation. This attorney has no business working for our town, and we need to replace him as soon as possible. All right, I'm now moving on to the next subject.
All right.
During this meeting, somebody pointed out that pipes were ran along Route 94, and where those pipes were run didn't allow us to extend that service to the other side of Route 94.
Right.
I don't know that much about it, but that was the statement that was made. My reason for mentioning it is simply this. We have an engineer, and another comment was made that all engineers are the same. I got news for you. I'm a real estate agent. I work with property sellers all the time who have defective septic systems. Engineers are not all the same. And if the engineer who designed the system where the pipes were run along 94, that engineer should no longer be working for us either. Whoever it is, I don't know who's working for us now. I don't know who approved this design, but if they're one in the same company, we need to get rid of them or have them help us figure out some way without charging us for correcting the error that they made. The
20
pipes
seconds.
belong. Okay, thank you very much for the heads up. All right. Again, I'm going to say, as I said a little bit earlier, the town center is not being held back because of not having sewer or water. The town center of Vernon is being held back by the property owners who own the vacant properties. And until we force them to take action, the town will never be developed if the property owners are not forced to develop the properties. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Peg Stassi.
Mr. Stassi?
Thank you. Mayor Burrell, I voted for you. I supported you when you ran. But when you went back on every single one of your campaign promises, I had to rethink. I am a Facebook warrior, and I'm proud of it. I will always fight for what is right for Vernon. Vernon first. I have no personal agenda in any of this. Now, about issues. The 1.75 million has been put into water and sewer. Okay, fine. Why isn't that being used to develop the 94 corridor as Pat has suggested with the 2016 study? Why is it being directed towards town center? It just seems to me that that is being definitely directed in an area that follows suit with trails and pump tracks, which is not what we need. We need 94 corridor as a business corridor developed to its fullest extent. Now, thank you. I will say thank you to Mr. Zelinski for addressing the issues that I was trying to say that I guess I didn't say correctly. And is that it was my understanding that that 7% and Mountain Creek's obligation was more than just covering the pump station. So thank you for making that clearer. And Mr. Hessians, I'm not picking on Mountain Creek. I understand you're doing a good job, and I appreciate what you have done to turn around the bad reputation of previous owners. And I hope that you will continue to stay the course. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone else, Marcy?
Yeah, I have Jessica Palladini.
Okay. Mrs. Palladini?
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
First, I want to start by saying shame on you, Mayor Burrell, for recklessly putting Vernon taxpayers in jeopardy by buying with our tax dollars a property that has been contaminated for 25 years. That was the subject of a DEP lawsuit for toxic contamination, and then bold-faced lying about it and saying there was no contamination. On another note, I have sent all of you, including the mayor and business administrator, copies of the foul language and harassment that I received from Recreation Department employee Meg Wannon. In all the years I have lived in Vernon, I have never seen such an inappropriate thing by a Vernon municipal employee ever. You need to discipline and reprimand this employee for her inappropriate behavior, and you also need to adopt a social media policy for all employees and board members. Unfortunately, they have the mayor as their role model, who constantly slanders, defames, and harasses residents and calls them names, as he did to our own council president, Rizzuto, and has done to me on countless times. Further, Stephanie Salingo is the administrator of this bullying group that Meg Wannon is on, that is replete with foul language and sexually deviant content. And Ms. Salingo has incited dozens of hateful and angry women in her mob to harass and threaten me with their filthy, horrible, foul language and degenerate and sexually deviant comments for days on end. And even to this day, she continues to post, all while she serves in the official capacities on the Vernon Recreation Committee, working with our children and the Beautification Committee. She further denigrates and debases all women with vulgar, foul language and sexual undertones on her TikTok pages. This is not the type of thing Vernon Township should model for our children or our citizens. It does not bode well for our existing businesses or those who might want to come to our town. I am calling upon Mayor Burrell and the council to ask Ms. Salingo to resign or remove her from these committees. Lastly, for the past year, I have been researching the mayor's expenditures, and I have found some alarming things. There are wasteful expenditures, misappropriations of funds, and spending money for things without authority. I can share with you the list that I have created. But first, I want to read to you the council's powers under our Faulkner Act of Government. General powers and duties. The council has the general powers and duties to, at the council's discretion, separate and apart from the required township audit, cause to be made an annual audit of the township's accounts and financial transactions as required by law. Such annual audit, if caused, shall be made by a registered municipal accountant of the state of New Jersey, appointed by the council, and shall not be the same auditor as retained by the township as the township auditor. So tonight, I am calling for an audit of the mayor's expenditures over the past 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Palladini. Anyone else?
Yes, I have Walter Marsico.
Mr. Marsico?
Good evening again, Walter Marsico, 40-plus year resident, Vernon, also Facebook warrior. Mayor, I'm requesting that you resign from your office as mayor and avoid yourself further embarrassment. Your latest stunt by purchasing the contaminated Baldwin property with taxpayer funds after the council and numerous residents told you not to is completely despicable. Your actions are the direct reason why our 3 new council members were elected. You have violated the public's trust and failed at your campaign promises, every one of them. I've said it before and I will say it again. You do not have our best interest in mind. You continue to waste our taxpayer dollars and further put our beautiful township into a financial hole. You are a proven liar and detriment to this township. Your sense of entitlement is fully inflated by your ego. Now allow me to enlighten our residents once again to the mess that was created by Mayor Burrell. His unethical practices involving numerous township employees, council members, and even the township attorney, Joshua Zielinski, which has the potential to cost this township hundreds of thousands of dollars. Mayor has ignored me on every occasion. He's allowed a building and zoning official to run rampant, a former council president to file bogus internal affairs complaints at my place of work with the intent to cause severe financial harm and distress. A business administrator, Charles Volker, who has also filed bogus complaints containing no merit, all with the intent to cause severe harm to me. Shortway and Volker should both know better, whereas they're retired police officers. However, it appears Shortway did not learn a thing from Volker's mistakes, and that their actions come with repercussions. Not one of you are employed or elected in this township to do whatever you want here. This is not your township. You don't get to violate laws, ethic codes, morals, standards, and codes, and then attack us for the same. Wasn't it a township attorney, Joshua Zielinski, that said, we have numerous people allege or threaten that they're going to file lawsuits with respect to the vacant or abandoned homes, and no lawsuits have been filed to date. And to date, the ordinance is valid. What? Is that the kind of representation this township wants? An attorney that says because no lawsuit has been filed, the ordinance is valid? Who says it's valid? You? You, Mr. Zielinski? You can't be trusted either. You have lied on numerous occasions. You are wrong. Throughout the state, the judges are ruling on the illegal attack to homeowners when the ordinance was put in place for banks and title companies. This was just another stunt by Shortway and Burrell, which was used to increase municipal revenue at the taxpayers' expense. This is extremely similar to what they're attempting to do to me, another pattern. I will not be another source of your municipal revenue to fund your pet projects. Mr. Westenberger was found by the state of New Jersey to be in violation of my civil rights by illegally withholding a TCO. This is not my opinion, but more of a fact. What did you do, Mr. Mayor? Nothing. You didn't do
15
anything.
seconds, Mr. Marsico.
You are just as guilty as Mr. Westenberger. You are well aware that Robert Westenberger, Allison LaRocca, Chuck Volker, Harry Shortway have all abused their power, lied, and violated civil and ethical rights, and yet you do nothing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, President.
Any other comments?
Yeah, Tom McClackery.
Mr. McClackery.
All right, okay, I'll make it quick and fast. I've had arguments with all of you. You're not on my Christmas list. I'm not. But I'm civil with everybody. And yeah, everybody's all uptight about the mayor at this point. He's a politician. I've had arguments with him, but he's a politician. What are you gonna do? Having said that, the point I wanted to make was, and I make this for the last 25 years, any expenditure over $1 million ought to be going out to the public to vote on. Your attorney's probably nodding his head and saying, no, you can't do that, but yeah, you can do that. Barring that, the council should pass an ordinance that requires any bonding over $1 million has to get 5 council members' votes to approve it. Without which it goes right out to the voters. And that's my piece for the night. And thanks for staying with it, folks.
Thank you, Mr. McClackery.
I have Ann Larson.
Ms. Larson? Mrs. Larson?
You're muted.
You there? Yeah, I know.
Yes.
You muted me then. I was unmuted, then I was muted. So thank you again. Just a couple things. I did want to point out something positive. One of our friends on Facebook, interestingly, has a problem in town and reached out on the pages. And I have to thank Councilmember Lynch for reaching out and at least offering her help where she got none from anywhere else. So thank you for that. I have to tell you, the 3 new members of the council have been really trying to help the members of the town. And I recognize it. I appreciate it. And I say thank you very much. And I'm sure many others do as well. That said, when we were talking about the bills earlier and, the unaccountable expenses, for example, we were speaking of that $800 clock. Mr. Lynch brought it up and questioned it. And once again, I looked around and Mr. Burrell is sitting there. No laptop again. I don't know if he thinks he's coming there. There's never any expectation that he's going to actually have an answer for anything. You think he might have opened a laptop and said, gee, what was that for? So here we go again with an $800-something charge. One person thought it was a clock. Another one thought it was a timekeeper. This is not acceptable. It's not acceptable. We found an expensive lunch on there on the bills list for, I guess, Christmas. You know what? It's nice to give a Christmas lunch, but plenty of places charge the associates or the employees for lunch. These employees don't bring any money to the township. So they can pay for their own lunch when you want to have a holiday luncheon. Okay. The mayor made his speech in the newspaper. He laid out all that dirty laundry to be seen by everyone in the advertiser. And I guess the precedent has been set now. So if a police officer decides to do that or a DPW worker, I guess that's okay. In most cases, it wouldn't be. In most cases, you get let go for something so reckless. But that's another thing. So I want to know if going forward, we should be able to see the expenses. We want to see the invoices, and we want to see the exact purchase orders that were spent. In addition, about the revenue from the short-term rentals, I think Township coming big. Let's see a running tally every week. We got $1,000 this week. We've got $8,000 next week, whatever the numbers are. So we know what's going on, how much is coming in, and is the money from Mr. Hession being appropriated to the proper account in the township system, or is it going into the general fund? That said, thank you again and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, Mrs. Larson. Anyone else?
Yes, Francine Vince.
I'm sorry,
Francine Vince.
Ms. Vince?
Hi, good evening. It's Francine
evening.
Vinson in the Glenwood section of Vernon. I've spoken a few times at the council meeting over the past few weeks, and so have some other folks about the safety ordinance. And I know that previously that the safety ordinance was being looked into, and there was discussion about passing a safety ordinance. So at this point, I just want to quickly ask a question. If there's any intention of moving forward with a safety ordinance, whatever that may look like, me and my neighbors have offered to assist with that in any way we can. So just, we'd like to know if there's going to be any intention of moving forward with that over the next several months. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have Jordan.
Jordan?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'm Jordan Lehman. I'm a newer resident of Vernon within the past year. I've been sitting on these meetings for the last couple months, and I'm usually pretty quiet about things and just soaking it all in, but there's a bunch of comments made tonight that I just wanted to talk about, all pertaining to the mayor and just his lack of respect and the way he talks about the residents of this town. I know he talks about the Facebook warriors, but I don't think he really understands what that phrase means. All these people that are vocal are bringing their thoughts and attention to issues to the mayor, but he a lot of times overlooks emails and doesn't get back to the people that are trying to reach out to him. So that's all I really needed to say. It's just really unsettling to hear him talk about the people of this town with such disgust. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see any other hands.
Seeing no one else wishing to address oh, I'm sorry.
Hello, council, mayor, business administrator, CFO.
Hi, Mike.
This is just a yearly thing that I do.
Why?
Introduce myself, my name is Kevin Duffy. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Glenwood Volunteer Ambulance Corps in Glenwood. I live in the Vernon section. I actually have my Chief Executive Officer here, Larry. Just wanted to say welcome to the new council. Congratulations to those that have been appointed to your seats. Looking forward to working with you guys again, as we do every year, and I look forward to your continued support to our agency. That was
I
all.
want to thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin.
I have Beverly's hand up.
Beverly.
Beverly.
Hello,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I'm just curious why Mr. Westenberger and Allison LaRocca are still working for the town in the building department and planning and zoning. It's a known fact that Mr. Westenberger took pictures in a bedroom window at 16 Jenny Lane in the dark of night. And to me, that's very disturbing. And Allison LaRocca orchestrated a raid at 16 Jenny Lane when she had no business even being there. There was a final inspection being done by, I believe it was Mr. Paul Black, but she came with him and a retired police officer. These actions by no means are going away. I don't understand why these people are still allowed to work for the town. Also, that's disturbing is that the mayor let this go on. He totally ignored emails and phone calls regarding this matter. I also know for a fact that other town mayors work for the residents, not their own personal projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Beverly. Anyone else? Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Dion.
Ed Dion, my wife's gonna kill me for getting up and talking. She said,
Tell Jill, that's okay.
I just want to say, I'm a member of the Economic Development Commission. I'm a member of the MUA, meetings in on. But I have to say that tonight there was a lot of information at this council meeting, which I rarely attend. I know, something I a lot of information. I want to thank Mr. Hessian for his detailed description of his 7% and all the agreements that were made prior to that benefit the township. I think there were some good questions asked here. I think at the beginning of the meeting, my friend Mayor Burrell gave a pretty detailed description of the information regarding the track, the trail, pump track. I don't know what that is, but apparently it's something that I really didn't know much about. I can't say I was in favor of it or against it. It's like it'll be a benefit to our township. Some people might disagree with that. In fact, some of my comments that I'm going to make here tonight will probably be pleasant or well received, but and to get up and speak. Everybody's right to make a public comment. Some of the comments that are made just are really disturbing. I mean, where have we gotten to as a society or in our township where you can just, if you're angry, but stuff that gets spoken at this meeting about the mayor, about some council members, just, can you put it away? Can you stop this? I'm asking everybody who's calling in or getting up and speaking here, council members, the mayor, everybody. Can we just stop it? Just stop. The personal attacks just aren't necessary. You disagree on politics, you disagree on projects, fine, okay? But the personal attacks have to stop. Nobody who's making those comments is helping our town. I've been living in this town since 1976, February 2nd, 46 years. A great community that we live in. But we look like jerks to the outside world. Horrible what's going on here. I'm begging you guys to stop it. Bury the hatchet. Whatever you gotta do. Go have a cup of coffee or have a beer. Do something. This can't go on. Take a look at New York City. Anybody here want to go into New York City? You can't control crime. You can't ride a subway without getting pushed onto the track or getting stabbed or shot. You ought to bring in the National Guard and put them into the subway. That's my comment. Look at Ukraine. Imagine if you were living in that country and another country came in and took over your country and your government. It's horrible. We live in Vernon and we're arguing over a trail and a pump track that costs, I don't know, a couple of $100,000. Put it in perspective. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I don't have any other.
Seeing no one else coming to the podium, may I have a motion to close the floor to the public? Comment?
I'll make that motion.
By Mr. Shreway, is there a second? Second by Mr. Fury. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Council comments. Mr. Shortway?
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week, one of our families in Vernon lost their home. Fortunately, they all survived. One of the animals didn't get out, even though there were heroic efforts by our volunteer firefighters to save their dog. But I really want to just, I know other council people will also do this tonight, just thank all our volunteers from the first aid squad, our volunteer fire departments, many community, adjacent communities responded. A great job you always do. And you put your life at risk, take time from your families. That night was no easy night to fight that fire between the cold, the winds. that house probably went down in probably 30 minutes. So I just want to really give a heartwarm appreciation to all our volunteers. I'm glad Kevin and Larry, you're here, so you're here too. Again, thank you. Mayor Burrell, I've been in public service for over 40 years. And I want to tell, we don't always agree on everything, but I am proud to serve with you. You're one of the most decent professionals I've ever worked with. I stand by you. Thank you.
Got it? Thank you. Mr. Fury.
Thank you. Mayor, Town Council, residents, my comments tonight are focused on one goal, to share the positivity of Vernon. The water and sewer dilemma, I want to thank Chairman Paul Carney, Chairman Paul Carney, and the Administrator Danelle Bright for presenting to the Council Mayor the positive direction of the MUA. Although there's looming debt in 2023, the MUA continues to work hard to reduce expenses and improve the sustainability of the MUA. I once again ask the entire council to make this a critical issue front and center for Vernon, willing to work together to solve these complex problems. It may be necessary to approve a forensic audit of the MUA to help with developing a long-term financial plan for its sustainability. The Township of Vernon continues to work with Mountain Creek in a positive direction. And I want to thank Joe Hession and Mountain Creek for that positive direction. As for Mayor Burrell and Council Member Harry Shortway, I want to publicly state how proud I am to work with Mayor Burrell and former Mayor Harry Shortway. These two people have been taking criticism for years, political in nature, but most of the times the comments from many are attacks on their personal integrity, which is shameful. What impresses me the most of these two individuals is they continue to show respect for their naysayers while staying committed to their ethics and principles. I do not always agree with every stance they take, but I respect them both for having the courage to serve in a political atmosphere at times can be quite toxic. I will continue to support them both, and I will make every effort to bridge the divide between us and the three other council members. We all need to come together for the good of Vernon, and I'm ready to take those steps with my fellow council members. The recent efforts of several Vernon residents stepping up and helping a family in need after a tragic fire is an example of who we are and who we should be as a community. Moving forward with a simple message of love and respect for each other. This is what makes Vernon a great community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fury.
Yeah, I just have a couple comments. I just wanted to just quickly reply to Ann Larson. That luncheon was not a luncheon for employees. It was the senior citizen luncheon, I think that you were referring to on the bills list. And it was a Christmas luncheon that I think's been a tradition put on by Vernon Township for our senior citizens for probably, I don't know, Harry, how long? 10 years more?
At least.
At least, okay. Yeah, so it was, not that our employees don't deserve a lunch either, but that, to clarify what that bill was, just so Ann knows, it was a traditional Christmas luncheon for our senior citizens, which was it was a very nice luncheon. I also want to thank Mr. Hession for all his information, for his willingness to be here and answer questions, and always rooting for Mountain Creek to be successful. I think I've said it before. I see the snow. I can see your slopes from my living room window, and I see the snow and I say, yay, great for Mountain Creek. And then it rains and I'm like, crap, that stinks for Mountain Creek. So always wish, Mountain Creek success, and I'm glad to have a good business partner. I'm glad we have an ironclad deal too with you two, though, because I don't want what happened in the past to happen. So I just wanted to share that. I also just want to really make it clear, I'm my own person. When I ran for council, I was very, very honest and clear that I didn't support taxpayer funded trails. I didn't support a pump track, and that's okay. We can disagree on that. I never actually met Pat Rizzuto until probably October, maybe. I'm my own person. So I don't appreciate when I'm accused of following other people's leads or seeking revenge or settling scores, because I don't have scores. I don't know most of these people personally or for any long length of time. I'm fairly new to the council political scene. So I think we just need to, move forward. Stop trying to one up each other during our comments here, in the media, social media, or in print. And I haven't really been vocal saying that in the past, but I'd rather just be judged on who I am. And ask me directly if you think I'm settling a score or if you think I'm following someone's lead, rather than insinuating it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bucier. Mr. Lynch.
I had every intention of addressing the mayor's comments and accusing council members of following a lead, like council member Bucieri had just noted. I am my own person, and no one has ever accused me of not saying what's on my mind. No one. I don't have to follow anybody's lead. I've been lied to, and I get over it. But I have to tell you, I am not the enemy up here. I am a council member that was elected by the public to ask the questions that we asked. Just because these are uncomfortable questions doesn't mean it's wrong. It's wrong. I'm leaving my comments further about this to myself because I actually agree with Ed DeYoung. He's much older than me, and you always want to make sure that you take care of the older.
I thought you weren't gonna.
I have to tell you, we're gonna probably see the mayor's speech tonight on Facebook this week sometime, so other people will comment on it at that time. But I'm not commenting on it anymore. I'm not going to waste my time sitting up here being talked to like that. I'm 62 years old. I am not going to get talked to like I'm a 5-year-old. Now, with all that aside, I do respect you. And I think that you are trying to do your job the best you can. But just because somebody has questions doesn't mean it's an attack. Now, Mr. Hessian, thank God for you showing up here tonight because you answered a lot of questions for a lot of people. And we certainly appreciate that you're a good neighbor. It's about time that we had somebody that was taking care of business the way they should. And it's Dunlop, not Dunlap over there, Dunlop.
Dunlop.
Because I heard about it for an hour already this week that I called him Dunlap the last time. So it's Dunlop. The other thing that I have is that we have the smoke shop, the new one that's going into where the Daily Bean is.
Right.
It's not a smoke, it's a cannabis shop, whatever they're gonna call it these days. I have a concern about that location, not because of the product that's being sold, but because it's like one of the most dangerous sections of Route 515 that we have. I've been a fireman in this town for over 30 years. I've been to 5 accidents in that vicinity that killed 7 people. 5 of them were children. That area right there is going to be needing a police officer to make sure that the egress and the exit and entrance of that area is taken care of so we don't have another accident. We've had dump trucks come down the hill with no brakes. We've had gasoline tankers come down the hill with no brakes. We had a bus come down the hill with no brakes. We all know what happened with that. Recently, we had a tractor trailer take the sign out over by where the Acme is. We had a dump truck come down, flip over right in front of the Chase Manhattan Bank. And the only reason why it flipped over there is because of that stupid divider that we got in the middle of the road. So it is my opinion that the mayor and business administrator should look into the laws pertaining traffic control coming from a business. Now, down in Wayne, they have nothing but cakes and a Starbucks. Every weekend, they have a police officer that sits right in front of the place directing traffic in and out because Route 23 in that area is busy. Let's see what we could do about that. We're all about keeping people safe in this town. They're gonna go to get some cannabis or a cup of coffee. Okay, but nobody gets up in the morning and says, I'm gonna get in an accident, but they do, it does happen. And we need to make sure we're doing all we can with the information that we have to make sure that that doesn't happen. That's all I have, Council President. And thank you for the job that you're doing as Council President.
Thank you.
I respect you, and I think that you're doing a great job.
And I apologize to Renee keeping you out past your bedtime.
I don't, she's gonna eat all the ice cream and I'm not gonna get nothing.
I'm going to try and make my comments brief. I do feel I have to make some comments. First, as I come in, I still see the auction sign on our property, the auction signs around town. Having been involved in the establishment of the sign ordinance well past the 30-day period, is there a particular reason why these signs still remain up? And if they're probably, if for the auctioneer is the company that did it, I would imagine that probably their signs, they should be responsible for taking them down, unless I'm wrong.
No, it is the responsibility, Council President. There was a plan to move forward and there still is. As soon as I can get a date that we're going to do another auction. We had originally planned to try to do it in March. That is not going to be feasible, so it'll probably get pushed back to April. We thought the easiest thing to do, because taking a sign out of frozen ground is not easy.
Yeah.
That we would leave it there and then just change the dates of the auction when that was the purpose of leaving the signs there. There's only 2 signs in town now.
Yeah, this is one of them.
Oh,
It was, really messed up. Doesn't really look good. I would ask that somebody take care of it. If the mayor is very concerned about the way people think about our community, I just don't think that gives a good impression. But my comments center on the fact that I've been accused of we ran a turbulent meeting on the 24th. And I look back on that tape. I reviewed the tapes. I don't think I talked any louder than I'm talking right now. And I just simply asked questions. Sometimes questions are difficult to answer. However, the mayor had been given quite a period of time, over a week, to prepare the answers for that. He chose, for whatever reason, not to, because I wanted all council members to receive those answers, because the majority of the council at that time was brand new. We weren't familiar with the issues that had confronted the previous council. So my questions, 10 in number, reflected concern on any number of areas. Certainly, one of the ones that I have been concerned about was the areas of purchase of property for recreational purposes. When we have a beautiful park and we already own existing property, which in retrospect, I think could have been used for these particular amenities. Also, the fact that the particular track, the pump track and the walking path, primarily the walking path, the problem would have been resolved with closer attention to the easement. And it wasn't. The decision was made to purchase property rather than to go after an easement. I think I've been very clear in all my time in government and in working with children that I am not against recreation or things for kids. God knows I spent 15 years on the Board of Education, putting up, 2 schools and being involved in the improvement and expansion of the remaining 4. To say that I don't care about children and their recreational, availability of their equipment and their sites is totally untrue. I have 3 young grandchildren, 3 8-year-old boys who are very active, who I'm sure are going to probably want to take advantage of this pump track. But my concern on the pump track and on the walking trails was not because of what they are, but because of why they were needed and why the additional property was purchased when they could have been sited for a less expensive cost in other areas. Even our own EDAC and our own Environmental Commission came and said, sent me letters, sent the council letters of don't buy. We are against it. The issue regarding it's being paid for out of funds from our open space fund, to me, is just a cover, because there are still additional costs that have to be faced. And yet we have senior citizens who are unable to pay their tax bills, finding themselves making choices between taxes and, reducing their standard of living in terms of shopping for food and paying utilities. We have people who are paying $5, $4, possibly even higher in some places, for gasoline to go to work. And every morning at 6 o'clock, there's the convoy going down 5:15 to 23. And when I first moved up here, it was a very inexpensive proposition. It's no longer that way now. So I wonder why we are expending this amount of money on a population in a community where the number of children has declined substantially, almost by 50%. In 2001, we were looking at about 5,600 school-age children. This time, we're going to be looking at about, this year, 28 to 3,000. The demographic that's going to be supporting the pump track is not going to be that substantial. The people who are coming to walk around in the bike path in the area that's going to be constructed, there are any number of tertiary roads in this community that are low in traffic, but you can ride a bike. And that's same thing with walking. You have a beautiful facility at Maple Grange with walking facilities there. And the issue of making it ADA compliant, I understand that as a consideration. But believe me, its solution is probably would cost a lot less than the $289,000 that we're paying from the open space, plus the additional costs that are going to have to be recognized and expended for things like improving of the roads. We're going to need a DOT study on that particular area. We're going to have to be putting in roads in other areas. I don't see the cost, the money appropriated for those roads as being substantial enough to pay for those costs. But mainly, I am here because taxpayers, not just a few taxpayers, but a lot of taxpayers said that they didn't like the direction of the government and they wanted to see it changed. I chose to go in to meet with the mayor prior to being seated, along with my two fellow council members. And we brought our concerns to him and asked for some type of compromise, and none was given. We went again, and essentially the same answer was given. Sorry. I then went in to see him on the afternoon of the meeting of the 24th and tried to resolve the concerns there and got no place, no compromise in any area. The only thing I got was, how can I get you to come over to my side? My question back was, how can I get you to understand that taxpayers in this town can't afford Vernon anymore? And we've got to find a way of reducing taxes and taking into consideration their troubled incomes. We haven't. I just got my tax assessment. I don't want to know how I'm going to be able, how it's going up in 1 year, almost $30,000. My daughter, same thing, 25 to 30,000 in 1 year. Mrs. Bright and the tax assessor have spent some time trying to explain the problem and the mechanism, what we're doing. I think most people don't understand it. And my concern is that my comments here and the previous comments were not personal. They were in no way personal. I never made comment about Mr. Burrell's character or his ability or competence. They were simply on the issue. I don't agree with it. I told him face to face, I don't agree, and I think we needed to do something about it. Now, that's not washing dirty linen in public. That is simply being transparent and showing the taxpayer that the people that they've elected are trying to do their bidding. This way of government, the government that we have, the decision has been made and we're going to have to live with it. That doesn't mean there's not going to be strong oversight. And that oversight, we'll have to see where it goes. I only hope through the efforts of our engineer and our workers that the product that is going to come up will be worthy of all of the tension and ill feelings that it was created. Mr. Hession, thank you so much for coming here. I have met you once before. I don't think I've met your associate. I really think that your presence here was a very, very strong and positive influence on this meeting. It answered a lot of questions. So much of what had taken place and transpired with regards to the previous contracts are so confusing. I'm still trying to get my arms around the whole sewer situation. And I was on the council 6 years previous to this. So these types of situations can be mind numbing when you're really talking about it. Thank you, Mrs. Donnell.
I forgot to say thank you to Danelle too.
Right. I wanted to say Albright, but I knew you weren't an Albright. Thank you, Mrs. Bright. Your comments were very refreshing and very helpful. And to my good friend, Mr. Carney, I call you that because you got a thankless job there. You got a thankless job. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
here and addressing the council. And I'm looking forward to hearing back from you in September. Please, Madam Clerk, would you put a notification on the record for that, for a meeting at that time? Thank you. Seeing no other questions, do I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
Motion made by Mr. Lynch, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Bucieri. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, the meeting is adjourned.
Good night, all. Good night. Good meeting. Okay.
Thank you.
Good meeting. Have a good evening. You bet.
Have a good night.
Yeah, that's good.